All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I know I took kind of a significant hiatus, a few weeks. I wanted to reconsider the direction of the show. I've been all about teaching everybody,
Oh shit!
and that's important. But also I want to get people kind of fired up, man, because there is really only one solution, and that's what we're going to get into tonight. And there is a huge degree of historical knowledge and knowledge of the law that's necessary in order to peacefully non-comply. And that's why I've been focusing so heavily on teaching. But, at this point, it's time that we actually apply it to real world scenarios. And, we understand just how important this is. So perfect time to reintroduce himself tonight. We have Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind with us. How you doing?
I'm doing well, very well. I had to drop back out and come back in. Can you see me now?
Yes, I can. It looks a lot better.
Cool.
Kind of frozen like a horror face. Situation there with your hands on your cheeks. So let's.
I was doing a Home Alone. I was
Yeah, there you go, Home Alone. So let's say hi to a few people that have.
You know what? Everybody, real quick. You know that everybody freaks out. You want to hear a really, really strange fact about me?
What's that?
I have never seen the movie Home Alone. I've never watched it. I've never had any desire to watch it merely because that little wormy kid that's in it gives me the fucking willies.
It's a pretty funny movie, though. Actually, all of them are pretty funny, even the one without Macaulay Culkin. But so we have Jehovah's daughter, Barbara. I know she usually stops in before the show starts, and I'm sure she's probably made it back by now. Julio Lua, good to see you, man. In Rem, appreciates the topic tonight. So, this is the only solution. Just say no. Sovereign commented, where the white girls at? So I guess white girls in there, let them know that's where you're at. Mike Finnan, good to see you, man. Core Endurance, good to see you. RF is killing us. Yes, radio frequency is killing us softly. And ever since the 5G has been kicked on, not so softly. Ethan W., glad you could stop in, man. You're always welcome up on the panel, by the way. If you want, just let me know. I'll drop a link in the comments. Greg B., good to see you.
Greg. That's Greg Brayton. He's been on my show a few times. You've seen him on there. I'm sure you have.
The Irrelevant Files dropped in. Says he concurs with you. Fort Jacks is on here as well. Good to see you. So, yeah. How's everything been going for you, Sav? I guess we'll give you a little bit, let everybody know what's going on your channel and what you've been dealing with.
Oh yeah, man! I got this email today. The wife and the rest of the family was down in Florida for this last week, and so she just got back yesterday. And her and everything, I looked at my email, and there's this email in there from Sean Hawkins calling me all kinds of fucking names and shit, saying I backed out of a debate with him, the one that's supposed to be on the 18th. And I'm like, I've done no such thing. Where did you get this craziness from? Well, you didn't respond to my previous email. And I'm like, dude, I don't even check my email every day. What are you talking about? And it's like, I didn't even need to be in contact with him. I was contacted by Jared. And Jared said, Sean wants to debate you. I said, cool. And he said, well, I have the 11th and the 18th. And I said, well, I can't do it the 11th. I have Will Duffy coming on my show. So it'll have to be the 18th. I can't do the 11th. He said, okay, fine. I'll set it up. I was like, kick ass. I need not worry anymore about it until the 18th of June comes up, right? And then I get this thing, and he posts a community post saying, oh, he's a coward and all this other shit. And I'm like, where are you getting this? So I think what he was trying to do was trying to get out of it by making it look like I didn't, like I backed out of it or something, which I haven't. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to make that fucking fool look even more stupid than he is to his 5 viewers.
It's his only hope, man, because he's a full-blown retard. And he doesn't have anything to stand on in a debate. He's not even, it's for the globe and all of its obvious weaknesses and fallacies. There are some people that are decent at presenting what they have, even if they're fundamentally irrelevant. Sean Hawkins is not one of those people. Sean Hawkins has nothing but ad hominem, and he doesn't have he doesn't have a chance. So he's going to back out before it ends up happening, and I'd be willing to put my money on that for sure.
Well, sure. He knows I already know through all of his fucking tricks. So whatever he's got, I'm ready. I ain't worried about it.
Sean Stalkins. I like it.
Yeah. But I mean, what a toxic creep.
Yeah, he's definitely.
And there's a few of them out there. Listen, when you get a chance, when you get off here, check out Flatsoid's latest show that he did. I wasn't on there and I hadn't watched it, and I just started watching a little bit ago, and he had Luca on there.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and pretty much calling out the bullshit, man.
Yeah,
pretty much calling out the bullshit.
I did that on your show with him the other night.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of watching this little grifter go on there and make people feel bad for him because they think he's like handicapped or something. There ain't nothing wrong with him. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Yep.
He knows exactly what he's doing every time he comes to derail any kind of pertinent point that may be being made, right? So,
yep.
Yeah, I will check it out for sure. So,
anyway.
So shifting gears, man, is I do a lot of teaching you guys history, teaching you guys, the fundamentals of the law. But here's the basic. It occurred to me is like, all of this is necessary to learn, but the most essential thing to learn immediately is that you do not have to consent. So like several of my last episodes, I went into stuff about Saturn and esotericism. I'm not going to get into that tonight, but I did bring that up before to demonstrate to you guys how deeply occult the practice of law is, and that there are laws that are inhuman laws that govern law in general. There's this natural, esoteric, higher dimensional, whatever you want to call it, power that is above human law. And this is important because everything that they do requires your consent for it to work for them long term. If they forcibly take anything, that's why all throughout history you had revolution after revolution after revolution. That's why it's called a revolution in itself is a repeating cycle, is because some tyrant would come and conquer a people, do it absent their consent, and then the people would obviously get tired. That's why it's an archetypal story that we watch over and over again in V for Vendetta or The Matrix or whatever. This is an archetype, right? And it's when you have somebody just overtly conquering, well, see, here's what they figured out. They're like, well, wait, if we get them to agree to being our slaves, then we're going to get rid of that karmic repercussion, that system of revolution.
It comes down to all contracts must be voluntary.
Yes, 100%. And so, believe it or not, I'll be the first to tell anybody when they're like, oh, what the government's doing is unconstitutional. No, it's not. It is not unconstitutional. That's the problem. It's 100% constitutional. It's just that the only part of the Constitution that applies to you as a United States citizen is the 14th Amendment. All the rest of that is meant for living free people under common law, right? The 14th Amendment is what created your current status. And the only part of the Constitution that applies to you is the 14th Amendment. So what they're doing is constitutional, but it also requires your consent. Now, like my dad just said, all contracts require consent, right? Knowledgeable consent, willful consent. But they also are required to be conscionable, which means that an average sane individual who's sound of mind, right, would agree to this, because a person who looks at this contract on the surface can see that both parties receive a benefit, which is called consideration in contract law. Both parties receive a benefit, and both parties give something in return for that benefit, right? And so it's an equal fair trade. Now, if you can't find that in a contract, the contract is unconscionable, which means more than likely the person who has agreed to the contract is not actually they're incapacitated, which is how they treat us. That's how they're able to expand the doctrine of parens patriae, and which is government as parent. And they treat everybody as an incapacitated minor, which is why you have to have an attorney when you go to court. So, but we don't have to consent. And you don't need to be a history major or deep into history as I or Sav is, or anybody. What you need to understand is exactly how and why a 14th Amendment citizen is a corporate franchise It's a creation of the 14th Amendment, and it's something you have to agree to. And the 14th Amendment is the only way, United States citizenship is the only way that they're able to enforce revenue codes, motor vehicle code, which is part of the revenue code, income tax, just revenue codes. Let's just say revenue codes in general, which is the entirety of commercial law. Commercial law is nothing but revenue codes.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way they can enforce those on you instead of common law is because you agree to be a United States citizen. So tonight, we're going to talk about non-consent. Just do not consent to their jurisdiction. Do not consent and understand that you do not have to agree. So I'll give you an example. If you get pulled over, and I practice what I preach, and that's what I'm encouraging all of my viewers to do. Practice it, understand it, learn it, live it, know how a cop is actually a pirate. How a cop is a revenue collecting code enforcement officer that works for banks. He essentially works for banks. That's it. He's a road pirate. So when a cop pulls you over, say you don't have registration on your vehicle. Okay, well, the term register, what's register mean, Dad?
It means to give it to the crown.
Yeah, because the main root word of that is what? Regis. Yeah, Regis, which is regal, is registered to registers. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, I hear the dog is out of water. The dog thinks that if it slides the dish all around on the floor, that it somehow fills up with water. And it kind of does because I pick it up and fill it. So I'll be right back. I won't take
There you go. He taught him that it does fill up with water. So, yeah, when you register, you're conveying the right of your property to the state to be used, which is actually just a private corporation in itself, to be used as collateral in your trust estate, okay, to stand as surety for the loan that the federal government and the state governments by proxy have taken out from the Federal Reserve and private investors. Now, this isn't just a bold claim that I can't back up, and my regular viewers of this show know that. This is 100% a fact. So before we go to the beginning of understanding why you do not have to consent to this and why, and it's just as simple as this: you do not have to consent to United States citizenship because it requires contract. Do you see what I'm saying? It requires your knowledgeable, willful consent. Like, you're not normally a United States citizen. United States is in the District of Columbia. Did I pull up that? I'll pull it up anyway. So let me show you guys something. Here's a couple things, right? And I'm only showing this. I know my regular viewers have seen this ad nauseum, but it never hurts to see it again. And this is for the new viewers to get on the same page as my regular viewers, right? So let me, whoops, hold on one second. I'm just got to look this up because I thought I had pulled it up. There it is. Okay. All right. So here's a couple things for you guys, right? We are just going to share the window. All right.
I was just going to say, if you take a look at all the different definitions for the word fair, there are a lot, and especially if you get deep into it.
Okay, you guys can see my screen? I forgot to set up my dual stuff properly, but I'll get to it when we're talking a little bit. But you guys can see this, right? No? Yes? Everybody there? Okay, yeah, you could see it.
You got us in a tesseract. There you go.
Yeah, I had it up. I was just checking back. I got to switch my screens around in a second so I can see both at the same time. So this is Uniform Commercial Code Section 9-307, location of debtor. Subsection H tells you where the location of the United States is. The United States is located in the District of Columbia. That is because the United States is not a nation and has never been a nation, but they called their company, their corporation, the United States, to be intentionally confusing because there is also a geographical collection of states in a confederate union that collectively are called the United States. But 9.5 times out of 10, when you see this, especially now, but even originally, before the Civil War and all that, if you've seen the United States, they were generally talking about the corporation. So I got like the United States versus Georgia, United States versus Virginia, or Virginia versus United States, because you're talking about two different corporate entities. Now, your country is your state. So again, I'm just going to show this for the benefit of people who have never seen it. This is House Congressional Record, March 9th, 1933. Page 83, second section, and I'll zoom in on it for you here. All right, so if we look over on this second section where I start highlighting here, the bottom of this paragraph says the money will be worth 100 cents on the dollar because it is backed by the credit of the nation. It will represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of all the people in the nation. So I've shown this before, and this is significant and changes things fundamentally in this country, because sovereignty can only be asserted on a clear title. The reason they did this, so the central bank, I hope everybody who watches the show knows the history of the central banks and our country specifically. Our country was founded and established to try to get rid of the central banks, get away from them. Andrew Jackson devoted his entire presidency to getting rid of the bank. Abraham Lincoln, the tyrant and piece of shit that he was murdered because the one good thing he did in his scumbag-filled life was he refused to establish a central bank. He wanted to print his own currency. And so this right here, they were able to mortgage because what happened was the Federal Reserve was established in 1913 by Woodrow Wilson, who later lamented and regretted it and said that he sold out his nation to a small group of moneyed men, which is true. And it took them 20 years of printing and controlling the nation's currency and forcing the nation, or the company actually, not nation, the corporation, to pay the interest on that in gold only in order to bankrupt them. So when this happened, FDR had confiscated, demanded that all the gold bullion be turned into the Federal Reserve banks or any agencies of the Federal Reserve, and they switched the entire system of currency over to debt notes, which is not lawful money. But so now this is evidences of debt. They transplanted our system, our economic system, into a debt-based economic system. But in order to have these debt securities operate as currency, they had to have surety for these debt securities to make them have international value among investors. And the only way they could do that was taking the only collateral that they had, the only thing with credit in the country that they had, which is the people, and mortgaging their property rights. Now, every single thing that you purchase already has a lien on it, because you're not actually purchasing it. First of all, you're trading debt and debt titles, basically, legal titles. And so this is where the Civil War comes into play. The United States as a company, which it always has been a company, right? Right here we got this for the new people. I know everybody else has seen this ad nauseum, but this is the United States of America, gov.uk. It is a British company, okay? The full name, the Government of the United States of America, okay? It was notified on the 3rd of July, 1776, has significant influence or control. This is a British company. It has always been a company, and as such, it had never had a citizenry or collateral of its own, okay? So when we go... see, where's my Black's Law? Right here. Black's Law 4th edition says the 14th Amendment, right here. Okay. The 14th Amendment created, well, that was a little too far, wasn't it? There. The 14th Amendment became part of the Organic Law July 28th, 1868, and its importance entitles it to special mention. It creates, or at least recognizes for the first time, a citizenship of the United States as distinct from that of the states. And now, before we're done tonight, I'll have shown you many more examples of this, but this created a subclass of citizen. So I'm going to just explain one more thing, and then I'm going to give my dad an opportunity to speak on this subject as well. It's this simple. The creator can never be subject to the created. Okay, so God created us. God can never be subject to us, or however you want to believe, whatever you believe created us. Whatever created you can never be subject to you because it's a power above you, right? So the people created the state government. Okay, then the state governments got together and that's a story in itself. And they created the federal government, incredibly limited power. And in fact, anything that wasn't in the Constitution, the federal government wasn't allowed to do. So the federal government, the United States company, is at the bottom of that chain of command there. Okay, it goes people, state, United States, right? So what they did with the 14th Amendment was created a subclass of citizen, a corporate enfranchisement. That is now the fourth tier in our little ladder here. And that's under everything else. So they've transplanted the people into this bottom level 14th Amendment citizen, corporate enfranchisement, subject to the arbitrary legislation of Congress. And that is who they mortgage the property rights of. Now, when we look at this, they didn't mortgage the people's property rights. Okay. They mortgaged the United States citizens' property rights, which you do not have to agree to be. One last thing I'm going to show you guys just before we can get this conversation started. This is McDonald v. State. Okay. This happened 1883, May 15th, 1883. Okay.
I remember that.
You remember it was a good year.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So here's the thing. This guy got found guilty of murder. He appealed the decision because one of the jurors, back when they actually were under common law and all that good stuff, he said was not a United States citizen. Obviously, they were programming and propagandizing this whole United States citizenship back then for this guy not to just know this. But the Supreme Court, or the court, it was, what was it? Indiana Supreme Court denied his appeal because it says right here, I'll just read it. It says, the evidence of Bushing and his voir dire showed that although he was not a citizen of the United States, he was a citizen and voter of the state under Section 2 of Article 2 of our state constitution. One may be a citizen of the state and yet not a citizen of the United States because they're two distinct entities. So this was just after the 14th Amendment. We've seen that it became part of the organic law in 1868, and it created, or at least recognized for the first time, the concept of a United States citizen as distinct from a state citizen. But this Supreme Court case from Indiana shows exactly the distinction. And what it goes on to say is it says that, let me see, where was it? He says, so it's proper, therefore, to consider whether the ninth cause for challenge of a person called as juror in Section 1793 relates to one who is not a citizen of the United States or merely to one who is not a citizen of the state. It must be conceded that the word alien almost uniformly applies to one born beyond the jurisdiction of the United States and not naturalized conformably to the laws of the United States. It is not improbable, however, that this general use of the word obtains from the fact that in most of the states of the Union, persons who are not citizens of the United States are not admitted to state citizenship. In this state, however, a declaration of intention to become citizens of the United States with the requisite residence in the state not only confers upon male persons of foreign birth the elective franchise, which is what you're basically entering into, an elective franchise as a United States citizen, to be giving voting rights. Right. And that's it, because you now become part of a company and you have one share in that company. So you now get to have one share worth of say in the officers of that company, essentially. So what happened was he moved here and he applied to be naturalized in the state and became a state citizen, but did not apply to be naturalized in the United States. And you may be a citizen of the state and not a citizen of the United States. That means he had to file two separate naturalization forms with two separate entities. And you did not have to do that, which is a voluntary contract. That's my point the entire time. They can only do what they can do to a United States citizen. Cops pulling over somebody with no plates can only do that to a United States citizen, because that United States citizen is a foreigner to whatever state you live in. They're under the legislative purview of Congress, and they have a lien placed on them, which makes them subject to the revenue code. So if we look up the Buck Act was designed specifically to give the state's jurisdiction over United States citizens in order to enforce revenue codes, which I think it's funny they call it the Buck Act, like passing the buck to the states, right? So But anyways, yeah, so that's the big thing. This is a corporation. You don't have to agree to be a part of it, right? It was never originally there wasn't even such thing as United States citizenship prior to the Civil War. Okay, to be a U.S. citizen, people just assumed that it meant you were a citizen of one of the states. Because this is what it means to be a United States citizen right here, that you are located in the District of Columbia. And the word citizen is used in its original context as in like an indentured servant, right? So you're an employee. You get an employee identification number called the Social Security number and all that stuff. But go ahead, Dad. Sorry about that long-winded. I just wanted to get that out of there. You can go ahead.
Oh, you're all right, man.
Yeah. So, yeah. This is the whole thing, is when you're, so in order for there to be a crime under common law, what does there have to be?
There has to be a victim.
There has to be a victim, right?
You have to cause loss, injury, or harm.
So where's the victim? And I can actually show you guys where they got rid of common law. I probably will in a little bit. I just don't want to spend too much time showing a bunch of wordy legal stuff and not having a conversation. But the Michigan Judicature Act of the early 1900s, I forget which year, but I got the PDF on here. They actually talk about how they were phasing out common law in order to replace it with commercial law. The reason they were able to replace everything with commercial law is because commercial law is a form of contract law, which is a sublet of maritime law. Okay, it's international trade, essentially. Everything that happens so what does law primarily deal with? It deals with injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what does injury usually come down to? What's the bottom line of injury? Money, right?
Well, yeah, well, now it is.
Well, yeah, but it's always been money. Think about it. So even under common law, if you hurt somebody or you killed their sheep or whatever the case, or you stole something.
Oh, you had to fairly compensate for the loss. Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And that's actually what justice means. It's a balancing of scale. So it always comes down to money.
I think this is also why a life sentence is roughly the same length as a mortgage.
Absolutely.
25 to 30 years, babe.
Right? No, that's why they call it a capital offense. That's capital. People don't realize capital punishment isn't just death. Capital punishment is life too. It means you are now dead. Whether you're still alive and dead or you're actually dead, you're now dead. You're no longer part of society. You're over with. You're out of there. So yeah,
I've figured out a hidden component to get people to kind of go along with this. We've conditioned people into a state of fear to where the majority, at least 98% of shit that people fear is stuff that might or could happen. It's all in the head.
Yeah.
And so then it's easy to say that breaking a speed limit is committing a crime because you might hit somebody or you might crash in. There's the thing, you see, because of what might or could happen.
No, you're 100%. I agree with you. That's what I say. You enter into the realm of Minority Report, the movie Minority Report.
Oh, exactly.
It's a pre-crime. You're punishing me for what might have happened.
Yep.
You can't do that. That's not actually a crime. You know what I mean? So I could arrest a politician knowing he's going to embezzle down the road and fuck everybody over. So I'm going to apply the same law, the same understanding to them. We should just go arrest all of them.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's
after all, these cops, they might shoot somebody who wasn't even armed. So we should just arrest them for involuntary manslaughter or first-degree murder or whatever the charge is for that immediately.
Right.
Welcome aboard the force. You're under arrest.
No, that's 100% right. And I seen somebody. Let me see if I save this thing. I'll send it, and I'll send it to myself. But it's perfect. Hold on. I'd like to think I saved it. Yeah, I did. Hold on. Let me send this to myself real quick. Low tech, very low tech way of getting something to my computer, but
I do the same thing, man.
It's convenient, right?
Although I did find a way that I can link my phone. I don't know how it happens, but I can link my phone to my computer. It's pretty cool. Little thing popped up today and said, "Hey." Like, yeah, that's totally not going to spy on me. Shit.
Right. I had my father-in-law today, actually. He's like, hey, Ryan, can I ask you something about this phone? And I was like, yeah, sure, Kev, what's up? He's like, I hit that little microphone button on my phone, and he's like 70. He's like, I hit that microphone button on my phone and I just started humming a tune and it picked the song for me. It found the song. I was just humming it and it sounded, how can it do that? He's like, is it always listening to me? I was like, yeah, 100%. It's always
listening to you. And you know what? I'm half thinking the fucking thing can read your mind too. I really am, because I'll start seeing ads of shit that I have not even mentioned, but have been thinking about.
Well, that's one of the first things they did once they got the AI up and running, was had it decode brainwave patterns. 100%. I mean, Yuval Noah Harari, you know who he is, Klaus Schwab's right-hand man.
Yeah.
He said humans are hackable animals now. There's no such thing as privacy anymore. It's humans are hackable animals, and that's all there is to that. He said very soon we'll have the technology where a dictator can actually know if the crowd, anybody in the crowd, when he's giving a speech, if they're dissenting or if they if they have any kind of like anti-government thoughts. And like that's where they're heading with this stuff. People who don't see that, dude, it's crazy. So let me see if I can just pull it up this way, because this is being annoying. All right, so it's on my Gmail. Check this out, and this is the truth. This is the crux of it right here. Let's see if you guys can see that picture. Yeah. Okay. Well, are you still there? Yep. There we go. You see that?
Not yet. There it is.
I'm not a constitutional officer. Through a compact, I'm a District of Columbia foreign agent violating your rights daily. Prove me wrong. That's exactly right. That is the accurate description of what these people are. Don't people find it funny that they all have a United States flag in their courtroom? Never even mind the fact that it has a gold fringe around it. Just the fact that, what do flags do, Dad? I know you know this.
They're signals. They're a sign. That's what the word sigil comes from.
They denote jurisdiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's like even on ships, and the different types of flags displayed are displaying a message. Yeah. Not just the origin of the ship, but what kind of ship it is, what it's carrying, all that shit is displayed with flag work, sigils.
Exactly.
In fact, the first really effective form of communication in military was using pinafores or little flags to put them in certain positions to send signals across vast distances. Somebody watching with binoculars, and they would, the guy was saying by the angle of these flags.
Exactly. That's 100%.
Signal corps today for the United States Army is still 2 crossed pinafores. I know I was in Signal Corps.
That's exactly right, though. And primarily, so you can use flags to signal, but primarily when you see them on a building or in any specific plot of land, it denotes territory, it denotes territorial jurisdiction. So like if you go to an embassy, a foreign embassy, what flag do they have up there? Like say it's a Chinese embassy. Yeah, Chinese flag, because as soon as you go onto that soil, into that jurisdiction you're in Chinese jurisdiction, that flag is telling you where you're at. So now that we know the United States is located in the District of Columbia, we know that the United States citizenship was created by the 14th Amendment, and it's an enfranchisement. They call it an elective franchise. You are an just like in California, they don't have income tax. Their state constitution forbids income tax. They have franchise tax, which is your income tax. So they're basically taking their portion for you doing business. I was thinking about this. And the best way I can explain this to you guys is like, first of all, your nation, your country is your state. That's what the word state means, right? That's why Department of State deals with foreign states, whether it be Germany, China, whoever. So your nation is your state. That's your nationality. In fact, in old styles manuals, there's an entire listing of the nationalities of this republic, which is, Georgian, Michiganian, Virginian, New Yorker. And these were to be used in legal documents or anything when you're denoting somebody's nationality, because that is your actual nationality. So when the United States territorially occupied the several Confederate states, which all states are Confederate. If you're new to this channel, I'll prove it to you. You can ask anybody. I've got it actually pulled up. All states are Confederate. I'm in Michigan. Go ahead.
I was going to say with the flags, like within the nationality. Okay, so the United States flag, we have the United States flag. We have the United States maritime flag, which is the one with the fringe, like John Keeley has said down in here. So we have these different representations of the same flag. And from what I understand, we're supposed to have a peace flag as well for when we're at peacetime, where our stripes are vertical rather than horizontal. And no one has ever seen that because we've never been at peace.
Well, that's actually interesting. I've seen some stuff like that, like David Lester Straight, Anna Von Reitz, and these gatekeepers in this community. Like, Flat Earth has its gatekeepers, so does the law community has their gate. And David Lester Straight, total CIA agent. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. And take the good stuff he has, but always validate and verify everything you hear out of his mouth. I've caught Anna Von Reitz. In fact, when I was preparing for this show, I always double check her stuff, but they're a good source to find leads on court cases and stuff that are going to reinforce what you know to be true. But always, I've got this Harvard case law project saved on my favorites. It's got every court case from every state, from every court in every state, going back to the founding of this country. Fantastic legal resource. I'm very fearful that they're going to take it. They said they're changing something about it in September. Right now, it is phenomenal. I'll leave a link in the description actually after the show, but I went and tried to verify something she said. Let me see here. I'll give you a perfect example of this gatekeeping biatch right here. Hold on. She says, so where was the one specifically that she said, yeah, not that one. It was, just bear with me for a second. Oh, Murphy versus Ramsey, I believe. Yeah, federal citizen. This is what she says is in the case. Now, maybe she's just interpreting it, because if you read the case, you can get this interpretation. But she's giving people the impression by putting it in quotation marks that it's something that was actually said specifically, and it's not. But this case does point out that U.S. citizens are elective franchises of a corporation, but it doesn't specifically say. You have to know law to understand that's what it's saying. So it says federal citizenship is a municipal franchise domiciled in the District of Columbia, and the political rights of federal citizens are franchises which they hold as privileges at the legislative discretion of Congress. Now, that is 100% true, and I can prove that other ways, but she's telling you that this is in Murphy v. Ramsey, 114 U.S. 15, 1885. Well, I can go right to that, and nowhere is that. You can just do Control F, find the keywords. Nowhere in that case does it specifically say that. It does talk about the people within, I believe it was the Utah territory, back when it was a territory, not a state, because when it was a territory, then it's under the United States Corporation, the United States company, as a colonizing company. And you can gather they're talking about the privileges and rights and immunities that they enjoy as an elective franchise, but nowhere does it specifically say that, what she said there. And that's the impression that she gives people when she puts it that way. Now, other things she has on here is verbatim, and I can find those. I've shown them on my show before. My point is, I've never actually seen that flag. I know there was a big to-do about designing the flag after the bankruptcy. And a lot of that stuff has been so covered up, and like documents are impossible to find. And even the thing on the gold fringe, they'll tell you, no, it's just a decorative, it's a mutilation 100%. But to find the laws that prove it's a mutilation of the flag, or that it's a military fringe, is very, very difficult to find. So the example I was going to give though, is it's like this. So you're a state citizen, or a state inhabitant, rather, because that's what people would be, unless you were going to, be part of the government or whatever the case may be. You'd be a state inhabitant, because citizens are actually indentured to the state. So you'd be an inhabitant, and you'd be free, and you'd be subject to common law. And as long as you didn't injure anybody or violate a contract, because contracts are part of common law, people forget that. Like, there used to be debtors' prisons and stuff. If you agreed to something and you failed to hold up your end of the bargain, people could take you to courts of equity and have you sent to debtors' prison. But you had to agree to that contract in the first place.
Yep.
Right? So you knowingly, willfully entered that contract. You were free. You entered a contract. Now you're subject to that contract above your natural rights. So you're this free person. The United States territorially occupies all of the states after the Civil War, creates federal supremacy, establishes zone improvement program, which is the zip codes, lays a bunch of carpetbagging courts in the South, which were the predecessors to today's district courts. And that's what those courts are. Those are carpetbagger courts. Your municipal district courts are carpetbagger courts, right? And it's mainly because the Lieber Code was never lifted. So people don't realize that ever since the Civil War, we've existed under executive authority. Like the president, it's a presidential dictatorship is what it's been since the Civil War. That's the first executive order ever was General War Order Number 1 from Abraham Lincoln. So, and all they've done is just renew these states of emergency, reinforce the states of martial law, and the entirety of the government. I've actually got a document from Justice Harlan that talks about that, which I might as well show you guys right now. But so what they did when they still had to get you to agree to be a United States citizen, and that was the purpose. That was the purpose of the bankruptcy and the Great Depression. They started offering federal benefits and, things to help people get through the Depression, but you had to agree, you had to adopt a Social Security number in order to get the welfare and all this stuff. And that's how they got everybody to agree to be a United States citizen. And what United States citizenship is they created this business for you. And you're supposed to be the owner of the business and the controller, the manager of the business in order to operate in this commercial realm. But instead, what they've done is they've created this business for you that you're supposed to own and control, but removed you as owner and controller and instead just have you working for it. And that's exactly what United States citizenship is. It's a corporation. And like I was going to say, the way that they were able to, all injury comes down to money. But now we don't have money. All we have is contracts. The Federal Reserve note is a contract. It's signed by the treasurer and the secretary of the treasury, representing two parties to a bankruptcy agreement or to a loan agreement. And it's secured by the mortgage of your property rights. It is a contract. A promise to pay does not constitute payment. Has been upheld by pre-1933 Supreme Court over and over and over again. I did a whole show on it. So because all societal interaction is based on contracts, they had to create a new type of law dealing with securities, debt securities, generating debt securities, all. And that's what Uniform Commercial Code is. You are now entirely under contract law. You're not under common law anymore because your property rights have been mortgaged. So everything you do in society is funneled through that trust indenture of the mortgage of your property rights. Right. So let's see if I can find. Yeah, right here. This is perfect. I'm glad it popped right up. So this is Chief Justice Harlan. It's one of his court opinions. Let's see, it's page 7. So I'll go back down to it. Page 7. So dissenting opinion of Mr. Justice Harlan in the case of Downs v. Bidwell, Supreme Court of the United States, May 27th, 1901. So fairly close to the Civil War, but before the central bank. We'll go down to page 7. And on page 7, second paragraph, he says, the idea prevails with some indeed, or it says the idea prevails with some, indeed it found expression in arguments at the bar, that we have in this country substantially or practically two national governments, one to be maintained under the Constitution with all its restrictions, the other to be maintained by Congress outside and independently of that instrument, by exercising such powers as other nations of the earth are accustomed to exercise. It is one thing to give such latitudinarian construction to the Constitution as will bring the exercise of power by Congress upon a particular occasion or upon a particular subject within its provisions. It is quite a different thing to say that Congress may, if it so elects, proceed outside of the Constitution. The glory of our American system of government is that it was created by a written constitution which protects the people against the exercise of arbitrary, unlimited power, and by and the limits of which instrument may not be passed by the government it created. And that's the whole thing. It's the government the Constitution created the government. That is the framework, that's the bones of the government. So it can only do what that document specifically says that it can. But the way that they get away with this, and let me know if it switches over. I can't remember you guys see this?
Blow it up a little bit.
No? Hold on. Where are you guys still at? Yeah.
Blow it up a little bit.
All right, I got you.
Make it bigger.
I'm working on it. All right. So this is what he's talking about.
Down in front.
This is what he's talking about is everything that Congress does and all these little district courts and everything, and even the Uniform Commercial Code itself is all under Article 1, Section 8, right? And this is where they've interpreted the Constitution to basically give themselves unlimited power. Just after a couple, all they had to do is a couple states of emergency, a quick civil war and then a bankruptcy, right? So right here, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Now, this right here, based on this, they went bankrupt, mortgaged the property rights of the United States corporate franchises, the citizens, right? And now Congress is allowed to make uniform laws dealing with everything in society, because everything in society is now under a trust indenture dealing with debt securities and not money. Everything is bankruptcy law. Everything is bankruptcy law. And that's why Congress has so much power. And it's not unconstitutional. What they're doing is constitutional, and it's only through ignorance and consent that it's constitutional, because you don't have to agree to it. You don't have to agree to it at all, right? So we've seen that they mortgaged your property rights, right? I'd see what a mortgage, right? This is the legal definition of mortgage. There's a very cool resource, legal dictionary, or the freedictionary.com. You can choose financial dictionary, legal dictionary, and it'll give you sites from a bunch of different dictionaries. And of course, I always pick legal. So the party who borrows the money and gives the mortgage, the debtor, is the mortgager. So the United States citizen is the mortgager. Well, Congress is, but they're the principal, and they're using us as collateral, or not us, because I'm not a fucking United States citizen, but you know what I'm saying. The party who pays the money and receives the mortgage, the lender, is the mortgagee. Under early English and U.S. law, the mortgage was created as a complete transfer of title, or it was treated as a complete transfer of title from the borrower to the lender. The lender was entitled not only to payments of interest on the debt, but also to the rents and profits of the real estate. Now, what does that mean? If it's us that were mortgaged, if it's the United States citizen that was mortgaged, now you understand what motor vehicle code is. Now you understand what all these revenue laws are, the rents and profits of the real estate. They're getting beneficial use of the property while the mortgage is outstanding. I just showed you guys in congressional record that anybody can go to congress.gov, March 9th, 1933, page 83, second paragraph on the left-hand side, and you can see that Congress mortgaged the property rights of the people. So and this is English and U.S. law, this is how mortgage works under common law. They get beneficial use of the property, the lenders. Who's the lenders? The Federal Reserve, the Crown, right? The bar, right? Depending on which trust indenture you're talking about. If you're talking about your probation for getting caught with a little baggie of weed, yeah, the bar is your fucking lender, right? They created this financial obligation that they can turn around and sell. So they create a financial obligation, okay? Then they generate securities from that financial obligation, asset-backed securities they're called, because they use you as the surety. So once they get you into court and you agree to, yes, I owe a ticket, or yes, I'm going to be on probation, or yes, whatever. Now they have a financial obligation that they can generate debt securities. Those debt securities, whether they be coupons, bills of exchange, whatever the case may be, they are the same thing as Federal Reserve notes, just in a foreign currency. And then they turn around and they sell these to private investors as asset-backed securities, and they use you as the collateral and the one responsible for performing the obligations of the trust, right? So that's what's going on here. Now check this out. This meant that as far as the borrower was concerned, the real estate was of no value, that is dead, until the debt was paid in full. That's what mortgage means. Mort, dead, gage, pledge. So what does that mean when you've been mortgaged? You're dead. That's why the judge wears a black robe. You're civiliter mortis, which means civilly dead. You have no rights. But what the lender decides to allow you to retain for whatever period of time, and they can remove it at any point in time.
Has the word dead in it, morte. It's the Latin for dead.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so that's what's going on. And that's how this whole thing is securities farming. If you guys haven't seen my show on securities farming, that's what it is. And the bar are a private guild of pirates, merchant pirates that use black magic spells to fucking enslave and rob people. That's why we didn't allow them in this country for the first fucking half of its existence. And it wasn't until the Civil War that amendment that the majority of the states had ratified disappeared. But we may get into that tonight. We may not. Doesn't matter. They're fucking pirates. They're illegitimate. They have no place in this country. Every single one of them should be taken to the gallows. Every single one. I don't care if you're just a tax attorney, dude. You're a fucking scumbag. So check this out. This is what I was just going to show you guys real quick. This is from let me see if I can remember. This is Revised Statutes of the State of Michigan. I believe this is 1846. This is shortly after Michigan was accepted into the Union. And this is for people that are new to the channel. I know that my regular viewers have seen this ad nauseum, but it's so important for everybody to understand what Confederate means, and that every state was Confederate. Penhallow versus Stone's administrators. We'll get to that in a second. So let's just do this real quick, right? So now this is Michigan basically accepting their acceptance into the Union, right? And it says here, the people of the said state are solicited to give to her sister states and to the world unequivocal proof of her desire to promote the tranquility and harmony of the Confederacy. So that's the Civil War is in a different light now. Okay, it was actually the corporate company, the corporate union, right? The District of Columbia, or the United States Corporation, trying to overthrow the state sovereignty of the several Confederate states, and they were successful. Now we'll go here to 1795, Penhallow versus Stone's administrators. This is that Harvard Case Law Access Project, by the way. It's freaking amazing. You can literally find, if it's a Supreme Court case, you can find it for free, most importantly. Very well organized. But so we'll do this, Control F, right? Yeah, so we'll go when and no, we'll just say Confederate, not corporate. Confederate. Yeah. So now you guys can see.
The whole thing is, if people really look, you'll find out that the what we call the American Civil War, it was referred, that's who the winner, that's what the winners called it.
Right.
The winners are the ones that called the Confederate States rebels and in a state of rebellion. No, they were not. They were defending against a tyrannical takeover by the
Yes.
very corporation that Ryan is talking about right now.
Yes.
You see, for the first time in history, a president of the United States of America mustered an army to attack his own nation. And as irony would have it, he tapped one of the most brilliant military minds in the United States at the time, Colonel Robert E. Lee, who politely declined the advancement to general of the Grand Army of the Republic. And he was quoted as saying, "Although I oppose secession, I have a higher duty to my country. Virginia is my home. I cannot turn my sword on her." Now, that's a very telling statement. His country. Who is it? What was his country? His country was Virginia. Why? Because that's how this thing was set up, man.
Exactly. And so that's what this case right here. So first of all, I had to sit down with the lawyer one time because the judge said I needed a lawyer, right? And they assumed that I was just some guy who watched YouTube. I can guarantee this: you'll never find anybody else saying the exact stuff I'm saying and showing you the mortgage of the property rights. I wish to God there were more people that were covering this. This is the fundamental crux of the entire scheme: is the mortgage of your property rights in 1933. That is what literally backs our currency, right? And that's why everything that is incurring is a trust indenture, just like how the Irish were indentured when they came over here during the colonial era.
Yep.
And they were under a trust indenture to these, whoever their indenture got sold to pay for the voyage to get over here. And then the contract was set up in such a way that they'd never get out of that contract and they'd be perpetually indentured, which is slavery. There's the Trust Indenture Act of 1939 that is literally dealing with the indenture that the United States franchises are in, the United States citizens are in, as a result of the mortgage of the property rights, which I have shown you guys in black and white from a government website, right? This is the crux of it. And I've not seen anybody else cover this at all, right? And there needs to be, because this is the whole point. You do not have to consent to this. When a cop pulls you over for not having the license plate, what he's literally doing is representing a municipality, a private municipal corporation that's claiming victimhood for you not conveying the right of your personal property to the state to be used as collateral for a debt that you did not agree to.
Right.
That is the objective fact of what's taking place there. Right? They're saying you were committing a crime for not giving your property to the corporation to use as collateral for a debt. That's called slavery. That's called slavery. And that objectively, that is what's happening. So I was having a conversation with this lawyer. At first, he's like, "You watch too much YouTube." And I'm like, "No, buddy, you got me fucked up. Listen, let me show you some stuff." And I had a whole stack of everything. I had printed off copies of that congressional record, printed off copies of the one about the 14th Amendment, printed all just government authoritative. I had Penhallow versus Stone's administrators, which I'm showing you guys now. I have all this stuff. And I start going through it all. And by the time I was like halfway through going, he goes, okay, you know exactly what you're talking about. Because he tried to actually say shit like this. "Oh, that's old law." What?
Yeah.
That's old law?
What's old law? What does that mean?
What the fuck there is only one law, man. Right? Like, no, it's not old law. You can't just contradict the fundamental founding documents of both the state and the country.
No.
You can't coerce people into contract in order to draw them into this commercial system. And that's what you're claiming that you have the legitimate authority to do. So finally, he was forced to admit, well, what I was going to say is, while I was explaining this, once I got to the Civil War and the illegitimacy of the 14th Amendment, the lawyer actually said, we're taught that Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis both had statues erected to them because they were actually defenders of the Constitution. They were the defenders of the Constitution.
100%.
They were the defenders. Yeah, absolutely. So, and here's the thing is now when you get into this commercial court, when you go try to explain this stuff, and trust me, I've learned through trial and error, and I've had success, and of course I've had failures. The whole thing is we're militarily occupied by a foreign invasion force. I don't have failures anymore. And I can damn sure tell you this. I don't even, it's almost like they know not to mess with me, which I know is crazy, but like I do whatever I want on the road, and I never fucking get pulled over, and I want to be. I want to be pulled over so I can be like, good afternoon, road pirate. How will you be attempting to cause me financial injury today? And you better know your shit. So here's the thing though, right? When you go into the courtroom, you're only allowed to discuss in their courts, you're only allowed to discuss whatever the subject matter before the judge is, right? And this is why it's so important that you never make statements, you always ask questions, and that you know how to prove the fraud. That way you know what questions to ask to prove the fraud. Like what type of court is this? What is the nature and cause of the charges against me? Where is my victim? Right? What are you actually taking me? What are you trying to get me into court for in the first place? Before I even consent to being in this courtroom, what is this about? And when you know how this has been done, you know how to ask the right questions to paint them in a corner. Just like that Ryan Michael Thor guy. He did a beautiful job of painting the judge into a corner. She had no choice but to dismiss. In the interest of justice, she says, I'm going to dismiss the case. So
that means in order to not have to give up our fucking game.
Exactly. That's what the interest of justice is. Yeah.
We don't want anybody knowing our game. So we're going to call that the interest of justice instead. That's what we're going to call it. Not that we're fucking conning everybody. Just shut up and get out of the court. We got other people to rape. Right. Just get the fuck out of here. We got other people to rape. That's what
we got. So many sheep we can fleece that we're not going to waste our time with you. And that's the whole thing, is when you can be a big enough pain in their ass and know how to explain and express this fraud to the point where they don't want to deal with you, they're not going to. But here's the thing. The whole point of us doing this is to set an example for everybody else. Because it's simple. Once you understand the crux of it, is the United States citizen is a creation of the 14th Amendment. It is a corporate employee of a corporation that's located in the District of Columbia, okay, that you have to voluntarily consent to. Let me see if I can even, well, let's get to this, the Confederate thing, right? So right here, it says, but wherever an alliance is corporate, can you guys read that okay? Or do I need to zoom in?
Yeah, just over there you go. There you go.
Okay. Where the hell did it go now?
It's in the yellow part.
I don't see a yellow part. Hold on. I gotta back out. It's annoying. There
it is up top. There it is.
Yeah. So
when you zoomed in, it pushed it up top.
Let's see if it's still up top or is it down. That's so annoying, dude.
It is.
Okay. How gay is that? All right. Well, you guys are just gonna have to.
That's all right. We'll deal with it with that text,
yeah.
Right?
So,
there.
But wherever an alliance is not corporate but Confederate, meaning every state was Confederate, just like I showed you, Michigan's a Confederate state. Every state is Confederate, right? Yeah. The Articles of Confederation created the states. The Constitution created the federal government. So there had to be states before there could be federal, right? Or there was a federal. It was Congress under the Articles of Confederation, but scumbags in the government, that's a conversation for another time. The Constitution is not your friend, okay? Thankfully, we had some good patriots in there that made sure we had the Bill of Rights amended to it. That's seriously its own topic and rabbit hole. But anyway, Articles of Confederation.
Yeah, it's important to understand, too, that it wasn't an all-out north-south thing altogether, okay? Because like the state of Maryland, right there where DC is at, remained a slave state through the war, and Lincoln had them pretty much under martial law because of the fact that there was a lot of divided sentiment in the state of Maryland, and in fact, there were a lot of Confederate units. They called them orphan brigades, but they came from Maryland and fought with the Army in Northern Virginia, but under their own Maryland flag. So it was pretty crazy to see blue troops with a Maryland flag fighting against gray troops with a Maryland flag.
Well, see, here's the thing is that, and the whole idea of the Maryland flag, that was their country. So that's what people fail to realize. There was no centralized military back then before then, like there was. Each state had to conscript its own military. In fact, in the original Michigan state constitution, there's actually provisions for dealing with the military. Because the state in a time of war, like say when they went to war with Ohio or Canada or whatever, had to conscript its own military. And those skirmishes only had to do with Ohio and Michigan. Nobody else. There was two nations beefing. And that's what was going on. So whenever an alliance is not corporate but confederate, the sovereignty resides in each state. That's from the Federalist Papers, right? And so right here it says, now the state retained all the powers which she did not expressly surrender to the Union through the Constitution. A state cannot cease to be sovereign without its own act, nor can sovereignty be asserted but upon a clear title. You know what that means? That means you cannot be free and in debt. You can't have a lien on your title, on your properties and stuff, and be free. Sovereignty can only be asserted upon a clear title. So when the United States got all cucked out, right, or when each individual state got all cucked out to the United States and agreed to fucking pledge their quote unquote full faith and credit to the debt, they were talking about you, first of all, and being willing to go a part of the plan. And when we look at the Buck Act, we really understand why. Because they had a financial incentive to sell you out. They want you to be a United States citizen and not a state citizen, because then they can enforce revenue laws on you, right? So that's kind of illustrated here. And Long v. Rasmussen, okay? So Edna Long had her property taken unlawfully by an IRS agent. This is from 1922. So this is before they had the majority of people as United States citizens, but they had United States citizens mixed in with state citizens. So they called them taxpayers and non-taxpayers. When you read case...
Hold on, wait, I got a question. How did a mad Russian monk get involved with all this?
Rasputin. Yeah. No, but so this, when you read case opinions and summaries and stuff from around this time, the judges all talk about a need for a uniform system of law, because they're tired of having to switch back and forth between this commercial, this equity, and the common law, depending on a person's status. And they're like, we need to figure out how to make this shit uniform. That's where the Uniform Commercial Code came into play, but they had to get everybody to agree to be a United States citizen. So this is before that. This is in 1922. Notice it says inequity. So it's saying that it's inequity. Equity is not law, but they turned everybody into, or they converted all courts into courts of equity, because there are no living people now. So there's no need for actual common law. Everything's just contract. Equity is the enforcement of contracts. So like when we go to the US Constitution and we look at Article 3, Section 2, it says the judicial power of the shall extend to all cases in law and equity. That's because there is a difference between the two. They make a distinction because equity is not law, but they'd have you think that equity is law, because Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule number 2, says one form of action now, and that's civil action, which is equity. So you can think of courts of equity like Roman civil law, and then law is common law for living free people, right? For people that don't have liens against their title and all that. So we're going to go back to this. And there's only one part of this I really want to point out for new people, because I know my regulars have seen this. So I'm going to point out a couple things about this first. Rasmussen worked for the IRS. Edna could not take the IRS to court. One, because it's you're not able to take them to court, I guess, for whatever reason, or at least back then you weren't able to. But she took him to court personally because she's a living person, a non-corporate enfranchisement. So she's holding him personally responsible for a breach of his duties, right? So she's not taking the IRS. She's taking him specifically to court, which is the way you get these fuckers too, because then they can't hide behind the shield of their corporation, right? It's him. He's personally liable here for this, right? So it says inequity because it's not in law. This is dealing with property and the enforcement of contracts. So it says right here, she won this because she was a non-taxpayer, as we'll see, which means she's a non-United States citizen, right? So let's see here. It is, okay, the revenue code or the revenue laws are a code or system in the regulation of tax assessment and collection. They relate to taxpayers and not to non-taxpayers. The latter are without their scope. No procedure is prescribed for non-taxpayers, and no attempt is made to annul any of their rights and remedies in the due course of law. With them, Congress does not assume to deal, and they are neither of the subject nor of the object of the revenue laws. This is because Edna was not a United States elective franchise. Congress has fuck all to do with you or any of us, right? And especially as it pertains to the revenue laws, they can only apply these revenue laws. So what are the revenue laws for? The revenue laws are for paying back the debt in the bankruptcy, right? Well, it wasn't bankruptcy yet, but it was debt. They can only use their collateral. They can only apply those laws to their collateral, which is the United States elective franchise. They can't apply those to state citizens or to state inhabitants who have not agreed to stand as surety for that debt. So basically, when you become a United States citizen, you're like, okay, well, basically the United States is saying, we'll give you privileges. We'll make sure your rights are protected, blah, blah, blah. In exchange, you can't question the debt and you're subject to our legislation. Well, here's the thing. You already had all of those things as a state citizen or as a state inhabitant. So really, they're just getting you to stand as surety for the debt. And it's a bad contract. No person in their right mind. You already have everything they're claiming to give you, right? So we go down to the 14th Amendment. Where are we at? 17th, 16th, 15th, 14th. So right here, all persons. Well, notice that the Constitution starts with we the people. But then this is why it says all persons, because here's Santa Clara County. I know I'm all over the place, but bear with me. This is what turned the United States citizen into a corporation. Mr. Chief Justice Scumbag Dick Suck and Wait, right? Says the court does not, and it's literally this one little opinion is what gave corporations citizenship, and it's actually the inverse. It made citizens corporations, because that's how this whole satanic thing works. But the court does not wish to hear an argument on the question of whether the provision of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which forbids a state to deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of laws, applies to these corporations. We are all of the opinion that it does. Oh, so now corporations are U.S. citizens. Well, it's actually the other way around. U.S. citizens are and have always been corporations. That's why corporations were allowed to claim U.S. citizenship. And this is no bullshit. This is from the 1860s. I forget. It was right after, 1886. So this is right after the 14th Amendment was adopted, and they ran full steam into converting all of this shit into a big corporate oligarchy in which you are a corporation. So this is what I mean, where they made a business for you. So when we look at the 14th Amendment, all persons, the Constitution says we the people, right? The beginning of the preamble says we the people. But now you have all persons. This is because that case I just showed you determined that persons are corporations or individuals, right? Persons, just a general term referring to a legal entity, doesn't indicate that that person is living or non-living or anything. So now you have all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and the state wherein they reside. Again, a reinforcement, if I haven't proven it to you already. If that was already the case, why would they have to put that? It's a bit redundant, right? No, because that wasn't the case. No state shall make or enforce it, and blah, blah, blah. So, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without the due process of law. So this is the benefit you're supposedly given. You already had that. You already had this under common law. Mm-hmm. Now here's what they're getting. Section 4. Now this is an equal protection amendment, they call it. This was for the slaves to have rights. Then what is this section doing in here? The validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for services in suppressing insurrection and rebellion, which is how the police are paid, by the way, shall not be questioned. So you cannot question the debt.
Just take it and shut the fuck up, slave.
Yeah. Shall not be questioned. You will not question the debt that we're using you as surety. So this right here shows 100% the intention behind the 14th Amendment was to give this corporation collateral to use in taking loans from a central banking cartel that had already taken over every other developed nation in the world at this point in time. Same banks that we've been fighting against since the fucking, 1600s? Actually, the same money lenders that have been in power for thousands of years and then got the idea of creating corporations. Go ahead, what?
They just keep springing up here, and it's the same people. They just keep springing up, and somebody would chop its fucking head off, and 4 more of them pop up. They're literally like the Hydra, the Leviathan from the sea.
It is the Leviathan.
Yeah.
No, it's 100%. And that's the thing. You like that? Shall not be questioned.
No.
So you can't question the public debt. Well, obviously the intention behind that is to use you as collateral for the debt. The 14th Amendment debt slave. So creation of the 14th Amendment is the United States citizen, and that is the collateral. The money will be worth 100 cents on the dollar because it is backed by the credit of the nation. It will represent a mortgage on all the homes and other property of all the people in the nation. That is a delicate way of saying that they mortgaged your property rights. So if all of your property backs the money, the currency that is still being printed today, and it still has the same backing, which is all the homes and other property of all the people in the nation, then how do you value somebody that has not purchased property yet? Oh, that's right. You mortgage their property rights. So that even though they have not purchased property yet, you know that one day they will purchase property and they will have to get a job, right? And then you're going to be able to take money out of their check, and you're going to make them you charge them for registration and pay for permission to drive and to hunt and to fish and to work and all this other horse shit, right? So that's beneficial use of the property while the mortgage is outstanding, which guess what? The difference between a trust indentured person that was like, say, the Irish, when they were under a trust indenture for a voyage over here, that had a defined term limit. Like, okay, this voyage is worth X amount of dollars, which is the equivalent of this many years in labor. So if you agree to this, you're going to labor for this many years or come up with this amount of money. Sounds an awful lot like a bond, right? It's because it's what it is. Oh, you're being charged with this, and your bond, come up, pay $50,000 cash or surety, or stay in jail. So either your ass or the equivalent of your ass, so that we can have the backing for the security that we're going to generate and sell to the private institutional Rule 506 investors. That's what's going on there, right? So, yeah.
There's a little interpretation there, though, with that word shall. I was just looking in this Black's Law under the word shall, and it looks to me like it's not like it's only if you agree with it too, like mandatory, right?
Right.
It says that's used in statutes, contracts, or the likes. This word is generally imperative or mandatory in common or ordinary parlance and in its ordinary signification. Let me see where we at. The term shall is a word of command and one which has always or which must be given a compulsory meaning as denoting obligation. The word in ordinary usage means must and is inconsistent with the concept of discretion.
Right. No, and that's another thing. They want something that's going to sound, because they know they're going to be able to fool people that don't know any better into thinking it's mandatory by using words like mandatory or shall or must or whatever, right? But then they're going to define it in their law dictionaries that it means, if you want to, if you consent to. That way they absolve themselves of any karmic repercussion. Well, it's not their fault you don't read what the law is. It's there. It's available for you. You should know that mandatory means voluntary. You should know that must or shall means if you want to. And it's your fault that you don't.
People, I'm telling you right now, go out to yard sales. Just browse around. Take a day out and look around. This 6th edition Black's Law Dictionary, man, was picked up by my wife at a yard sale for 50 cents. It's in really good condition, too. 50 cents.
That's awesome. That's a good addition, too. That's got 14th Amendment in it. So that's another thing that they do. We actually, between Rumble and YouTube, we have about 85 people watching right now. 84. Pretty good. So thank you guys, everybody, for stopping in. I hope you actually, soak this up and understand that this is the way. This is the way out. Is stop consenting, learn how to prove the fraud. Learn how to prove that United States citizenship is a voluntary contract that no sane person of sound mind would ever agree to be in. Understand that. Understand why. Right? So I was going to show you guys something right here. Oh, that's what I was going to say about the dictionary. So that's another thing they do is they can't change the legal definition of words. That's why the most etymologically sound definition of any word is going to be its definition in law, because law builds upon itself going all the way back thousands of years. So if they change the definition of a word in law, then it changes the previous laws and it undoes everything. So they have to keep it the same. So they don't change it. What they do is they omit it. I got a Black's Law 11th edition that my dad got me. And if you look under 14th Amendment, it doesn't say anything about creating or recognizing for the first time citizenship of the United States. You know why? Because they don't want you to know that. That's why. Check this out. The last thing I'll show, and then we'll have a little discussion. But this is.
Well, see, here's the thing. Previously, they weren't too worried because who in the fuck was going to bother looking at some boring ass law dictionary, right? Except lawyers, right? And how often are they going to go over that or whatever, and even understand what the hell is going on? So what happened was they had to start changing it, because as soon as the people more and more started realizing, you know what, I think I'm getting fucked here, and they started looking into it themselves, and they're like, hey, wait a second, there's regular people looking at this. We're going to have to take some stuff out of here. We can't change legal definitions, but we can take away the people's access to it.
We'll just take it out of there. We'll just omit that part. Like in the United States Code, it just straight up in some parts of it just says omitted. It doesn't say repealed. Yeah. Doesn't say no. It just says we're not telling you. Go figure it out. Go read the public act that we're referring to here. If you're really interested, spend hours of digging through, which I will, but 99% of people will not. And that's why I have this show, because I like to spend the time to do that, to make it easy for other people who are interested. All of this stuff is a culmination of many years of research and trying to figure out exactly what the hell is going on. Like, something's wrong. You just don't know how to prove it. That cops shouldn't be able to do the shit they do. That, you're told you live in a free country, but it sure as hell doesn't feel very free when you have to ask for permission to fucking do anything. So why is that? Well, this is what it is right here. And I'm showing you guys it's because you're an indentured servant through contract that you consent to, that you don't have to. You got all these people, all these other gatekeepers in the truth community. They want to tell you, just buy my course and I'll teach you how to take control of your trust, or you can be a secured party creditor and all this other shit. Why do you want to play their game? You don't have to play their game. You don't have to learn all that shit and play their game. You just have to learn how it's fraudulent and say, no, I'm not participating. Fuck off. Mm-hmm. I don't want to control the trust estate, which they created it. They're never going to let you control it. It's their game, and they're going to set the rules so they always win. Why do you want to play? The only way.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. No, there's no fucking deal. Okay.
Right. There's no way to win playing their game. You just do not participate. And if we all stop participating, or at least a good number of people, guess what? They'll lose.
That's why I say, man, we don't need a revolution, right? People always think that. And if you think, like you pointed out earlier, revolution just means to go around in circles, to revolve. to keep doing it. So what happens, right? The people are out there and they put this little group of people in there and they say, all right, we're going to run shit and we promise to be good, right? And then pretty soon that group eventually always becomes a little group of assholes, and the people get tired of it and they get their little pitchforks and shit out and they go and take them out. And then they say, okay, now let's put another group. Here's this group of guys that they promise to always be, you know, true and loyal and shit and not fuck us. And of course they do. It's kind of like Charlie Brown with the football. If you had a cancer tumor removed from your body by a surgeon, would you replace it with another one? Of course not. And as we see this just stop, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It keeps going into the same thing. They say the common man can't govern himself. So we're going to take a group of people from that collective that can't govern themselves to govern everybody. That is the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
No, it is stupid. And here's the biggest thing, though, and I try to tell people, and you're absolutely right about that. The best form of government would be no government. But in order for that to work, everyone must have perfect internal government. You know?
Yeah, that, and the control system feeds on that at a young age and programs people into not being that way at a very, very young age.
And so
consequently, they're just influenced. I think that if you took kids uninfluenced by a world like that, I think that they would come out really quite differently. I mean, I don't think it's in humans' nature. I think initially human nature is to help one another out and to be kind.
It's possible. Well, if you had a culture that fostered the proper type of golden rule behavior, and that was what was lauded and desired, like say that's what young girls desired in a mate or young guys desired in a mate and stuff like that, you know, that was what was culturally acceptable. Then yeah, 100% you would foster a community that was like that. But you can't do that when you've got a bunch of small-hatted fucking, you know, pieces of shit controlling your media. Here's what I was going to say real quick, though, and I like where you're going with that. But the original government that we had, right, was about as close to freedom as you could possibly have. I mean, it was perfect in its imperfection. And here's what, and I'm talking about even pre-Constitution or even just post-Constitution. If we would only kept the first, you know, the Bill of Rights, 10 amendments, right? So here's the thing. Is in this country, you're subject only to common law, which means don't hurt anybody, right? You didn't have to participate in anything. You could literally buy land if you so chose. You could have your land, you inherit it or you buy it or whatever. You enter into an agreement to get it, however you get it. And then you could just work your land and do whatever you want on your land. And you were the king of your land. If a government official came on your land unsolicited and unwarranted, you could just pop them, done, right? And then nobody could do anything because, hey, well, he's on my land. I told him to get off. He said no. So, I mean,
ain't no telling how many revenuers are buried up in these fucking mountains. I'm telling you what.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, you know, you don't have to participate in society. Well, not everybody's like that. I personally would love that, but not everybody's like that. Some people like to participate in society. So if you want to participate in society, you could also go enter into agreements and contracts inside of municipalities, or cities or towns or whatever the case may be, and you could agree to participate in society, become a shop owner or a fucking woodworker, whatever you wanted to do, right? But you were still subject to common law unless you entered into a contract which made you beholden to somebody, and then, you know, you failed to perform those obligations, then you could be taken to court or whatever the case may be, and that's where debtors' prisons came in. But you were free. I mean, think about this, guys. Aaron Burr and Alexander Hamilton had a duel, right? Had a duel over insults. It was Aaron Burr or Alexander Hamilton insulted Aaron Burr at a dinner party, and Aaron Burr heard about it and said, "Yeah, fuck that," and goes and I want to restore my honor. You're talking shit about me, and we're dueling.
Oh, kick his ass, man, yo!
And he shot Hamilton in the stomach. They both agreed to it. He shot Hamilton in the stomach, and that scumbag banker agent fuck died a slow and painful death, as he should, from his wounds. And I say that because he's one of the primary reasons we even ever had a central bank in this country in the first place. He was totally, wholly patronized by the Rothschilds and those rich Jewish scumbags. So, but I digress. That was freedom.
You know what? I was just thinking about something, man. The thing, you know, what got me into checking that out, that whole Aaron Burr thing.
What's that?
Was there was a commercial, and I believe it was for peanut butter, right? And this guy was listening to like a radio show, and you see as he looked through his apartment, he's an Aaron Burr fanatic. He even has the bullet in a little glass case and shit. And the question on the radio is, "Who shot James? Who shot?" And he's trying to say it on the way. He's going, "Oh," and he can't get it right because he can't fucking talk. And
That's
he's like
funny.
a total expert just on Aaron Burr. And so I was like, who the fuck is Aaron Burr? I'm gonna have to look into this one, man. But
Yeah,
well, Alexander Hamilton, and he's like, oh, he's trying to drink water and shit so he can talk.
That's pretty funny. But yeah, so what I was gonna show real quick. This is how they get you, this subtle play, right? You don't have to participate in. So this is the definition of resident under the code of Michigan. They call it compiled laws, but it's just Michigan's version of commercial code. Okay, so you see compiled laws, it's just basically bullshit that legislators made up that all hinges on a contract of you agreeing to be a United States citizen. But,
you know, real quick, here's the funny thing. It's all uniform commercial code, but none of it is fucking uniform.
No, it's actually all 100% uniform. That's a whole other section. So it's all created by the Uniform Law Commission, which is it's not the part of the government at all. It's run by the Bar Association. And what they do is they draft these uniform laws and then suggest them to the states to be adopted. And that's where, like, because these senators, these congressmen, they don't write laws. They have a legislator that's connected to the ULC, Uniform Law Commission, that gets basically their orders. And they just give it to the fucking congressman. The congressman, like, yeah, sure, whatever, signs it. And that's it. That's how. So it's actually all done by the Uniform Law Commission. And if you actually look at the commercial code, like every state has an Administrative Procedures Act. Every state has a Uniform Commercial Code Act. Right? Every state has an acceptance of the Buck Act. So all these, yeah, they differ here and there in little stuff, like say the regulation of alcohol in Virginia and stuff like that. But on the main things pertaining to the bankruptcy and how it's to be carried out and how this like one world government shit is going to be brought into play, they're very, very uniform. The uniform disposition on unclaimed property is actually about how to divvy up the interest and dividends from the trust estates that lie basically unclaimed because all the owners or the beneficiaries of the state are considered dead and are actually treated as the corporate trustees of the estates as United States citizens. And so, like, basically, if you were born in Michigan and you moved to Ohio, there was a period in time where Michigan and Ohio were beefing over who got the interest and all that stuff from the state, right? And they actually had to come up with this Uniform Disposition on Unclaimed Property Act and have all the states adopt it to deal with how that would be divvied up. Like, oh, well, he was born here, so we have rights to that estate. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, but he moved here and he's lived here for however long. And it's funny when you actually read the act. I think I've shown it before. I have shown it before on this, where they're actually talking about the creditor and the debtor. And they keep talking about, and this is an unclaimed trust estate that they can't find the owner. But then they're talking about the beneficiary, but they're talking about the beneficiary as the creditor. They're like, wherever the creditor was born, if the debtor doesn't still live there, then wherever the debtor moves, that state gets this and that. And it's like, oh, wait. I missed the part where we went from creditor to debtor, right? I'll show it sometime. I got to dig it out of my files, but the creditor and the debtor are the same person, just two different legal standards. You are the creditor, and if you claim to be a United States citizen, you are also the debtor. Now, they'll only recognize one, the debtor. They'll never recognize the creditor. But when they mortgaged your property rights, you became a creditor to them because you were free and they had no right to take your property without just compensation. So you're a creditor. But here's what I was going to show you. So resident means every person who resides in the state and establishes that he or she is legally present in the United States. Well, what does that imply? That implies you can be in the state and not be legally present in the United States, right? Notice how they use that term legally present in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That's because the United States has overlaid its territorial jurisdiction on top of our original state jurisdiction like a clear sheet of glass. So you're only a resident, which resident is short for resident alien, if you claim to be in the territorial jurisdiction of the United States. But this is not a physical place. The physical jurisdiction of this place is Michigan and Michigan jurisdiction. You get what I'm saying? See how they say legally present in the United States?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering what that means, legally present.
Well, it means that you've agreed to contract as a United States citizen. So you're legally present in the United States territorial jurisdiction, which this Michigan is Michigan's jurisdiction. But if you're a United States citizen, then you're under the territorial jurisdiction of the United States, which is overlaid on top of this through the Social Security Act, Zone Improvement Program, and a myriad of other, which, you know, a zone improvement program is zip code, which is a post-Civil War way of it's funny. The Postmaster General is actually the one who's in charge of all that stuff. See, that's why they'll never get rid of the post office, is because the post office and the Postmaster General is actually, he's a military officer, first of all. I don't know if people realize that or not, but I'm sure you knew that, Dad, right? The Postmaster General is military. It's military.
Yeah. It's
and all people that work for the post office, well, they call it the Postal Service now because it's not the same. It's not the de jure.
Well, what do they call a place that harbors the military? It's a military what? Post?
Yeah, exactly. And
military
that's what the post. Yes, now you got it. That's exactly right. Yes. And so that's what the postmaster does, is establishes this territorial jurisdiction of the United States through the Zone Improvement Program. If you claim a zip code, you're claiming to be legally present in the United States. So, yeah, will you hold this down for me for a second?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just looking in here in the chat. Some good people. Julio Lua is here with us tonight. And Barbara, my good dear friend, how are you tonight? And let me see. Robot Dough Bowl 3K. What's good, gentlemen? Everything. But yeah, you look at that, and what I think is really interesting, some of these really early post offices. And there's a reason that the postal uniform looked like a military uniform. Maybe not so much today as it did, because I believe it's been kind of half privatized. There's some kind of funky shit going on with it right now. I'm not really exactly sure what it is, but at one time it was completely federal. And when I was really little, I assumed that that mailmen had the same authority as policemen because they dressed the same. Of course, I was really little. They used to wear the same bus driver cap, the same color uniform, all of that shit. So yeah, it's you don't see the people at the other government agencies or whatever wearing fucking uniforms and shit, right? They're just dressed normal, but the Postal Service has a uniform and they have a code by which they have to wear that uniform. Now it's become rather lax in the last few years or so. It's not nearly the same type of thing. Used to be a time where the postal worker was actually a very, very proud person. They hit these guys with as much of the same propaganda as any other kind of wing of the military. Some of that is evident in the character of Cliff Clavin on the popular American television show Cheers that was on back in the 80s and 90s. Maybe, I don't know, time flies. But in any case, he was very proud about how the shit that the Postal Service can do. And at one time, that was true. They were entrusted so much so that at one time, people mailed their kids off to see grandma. They would only have to pay postage instead of having to take them on a long trip and be away from home and everything like that. And then they would be in the custodial care of the postmaster on that train until they arrived at their destination.
That's
So,
crazy. I think you had told me that before.
yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in these posts, you're absolutely right with the uniform thing. These postal service workers, which they are now, and you have to understand that's the commercial code version of the de jure post office, which it was. It is not anymore. But they're agents. They're federal agents, 100%. They're classified as federal agents. They're actually classified as foreign agents, which is like that little meme I showed you guys earlier with the. And I do like that Sheriff Grady or whatever. I like to listen to him. He's pretty funny. The Polk County.
He's a publicity hound, though. That motherfucker's a huge publicity hound. I'm like, okay, yeah, good. You caught some bad guys. Great. Wonderful, man. Do a little article about it or whatever. But this motherfucker got a goddamn press conference every time about something. And if you really look into the guy, he's a rights violator up the ass. He's like that Joe Arpaio. He's portrayed like he's some kind of a big super cop and shit. But you really look into Joe Arpaio, and he's a piece of shit. He really is. So you got to be real careful with what they put out from these people.
Yeah, and 100%. I still think he's a foreign agent scumbag, and I'm not saying any different because obviously, I mean, that's what he is. And he is violating your rights, especially if he. Here's my standard for that is if you're a sheriff or you're a deputy or whatever you are. Now that ordinarily would be a lawful position if you're enforcing common law. Okay, which is funny actually. The term sheriff is an Arabic term. And that's a whole rabbit hole in itself with the Moors and all that stuff. But it would be a lawful position under common law. But if you are okay with, if either you yourself partake in enforcing or supervise deputies that enforce revenue codes on the average unsuspecting citizen or person, let's just say, you are no longer, not even person, it's not a good word, individual, right? You are no longer acting in a lawful capacity, and you are now a pirate. You're a pirate. This is what they are. They're pirates. Like once you shift your fundamental understanding and perception of this system and these people from being, they'd like you to think, oh, we're heroes, we're the thin blue line and all this dumb shit. No, you're fucking pirates. That's what you are. You don't protect anybody.
No.
You show up after something happens, and then you're just trying to take anybody to jail so that you can pad your stats and generate revenue for the state and the bar association, the corporate state and the bar association. That's what you're doing, you know? So, now I had over on the Rumble side, 1776 Rebel Patriot. He says, how do you get out of using your zip code? You just put zip exempt. Anything you send to the government or anybody or anytime, just put zip exempt. They don't need the zip code to find where the fuck you're sending it to.
No,
they don't. They don't need the zip code to find where you're sending it to. And that zip code
is nuts too. Listen, I got to tell you something. Okay, so I live in a town called Stanley, and Luray is like 7 or 9 miles away, depending on which way you go, right? If I send something in the mail from here to someone in Luray, they take it from here. It goes all the way to fucking Richmond, sometimes all the way up to DC, and then back down here to Luray.
Really?
I could walk to Luray and give it to somebody before the Postal Service got it there.
That's actually that's pretty funny. That's weird, but that shows you the inconsistency. It's like I just told Rebel Patriot. The only thing they need that zip code for is territorial jurisdiction. They want you to claim it. When you put it on the return address of your envelope, you're saying, this is where I am. This is what I'm under. I'm under the zone improvement program. So therefore, I'm subject to the territorial jurisdiction of the United States and everything that comes with that, all the revenue codes and all that stuff. Remember the long VRAS mucin that I showed you guys? You're claiming the status of taxpayer as opposed to non-taxpayer. And when people really does anybody actually understand what we originally, what the tax rate we went to war over was originally?
I'm sorry, say that again.
what the tax rate that we went to war for
Oh, it
independence.
was, I think overall it was like 15%.
Yeah, it
And
was.
we got people, I know we got people wanting to claim, go back to that. And that's what we were bitching about in the first place. People are saying,
Right.
oh, we'd be happy with a 15% flat rate.
Well,
Well,
here's the thing. I've actually read that it was 3%, but if you take everything into consideration, taxes on tea and stuff like that, it could possibly be up to 15. But it wasn't much, not compared to what we're at now. So Grady's always justifying homicide. Hey, like I said, he's a fucking pirate. I'm not saying he's not. He's just funny to listen to. He is. He's fucking. And some people. This is the whole thing. Some people, don't deserve to be here anymore. Like some of the people that fuck around down in Polk County.
yeah.
You're carjacking old ladies and shit. If she pulls out a Magnum and pops your ass, yeah, there you go. That's what it's supposed
I
to
don't
happen.
feel bad for you.
Yeah.
It's like, but do you think that car was worth someone's life? Listen, that's not a question for the driver. That's a question that the carjacker should ask himself. Is that worth my life? See, because you're taking it into your own hands. It could take your life trying to do what you want to do. So that's a question for the person committing the crime, not for the person who's driving the car or defending their property. No.
Right, exactly. Do I think my car is worth some random asshole's life that's coming to try to carjack me? Yes, I do think that it's the property I work for. That's the whole point. That's what it is to be free.
Yep.
Listen, they used to hang cattle thieves and shit. This is what
thieves.
Yeah, horse thieves. You're getting hung. This is people's livelihood. Your car is your livelihood. Mm-hmm. So, I don't advocate death necessarily, but sometimes violence is the only thing someone will understand. So, and that's just where it's at, but so yes, back to the topic at hand is non-compliance, right? This is the only answer. So you see all these people all the time, buy my course, buy my book. I'll teach you how to be a secured party creditor. I'll teach you how to do this and that, right? If that was true, they wouldn't be selling there. But let me tell you something. If there was some foolproof, bulletproof plan, like just way that would work other than what I'm suggesting, they would give it away because of what it would do to the system. Think about it. If you're really in this movement and you're really a part of this and you really want to take these fuckers down, why would you sell a solution?
Right.
Because it's not actually a solution. You're just trying to make money.
That's why I say we need a big collective, not a revolution, a stop.
Yeah, just stop.
We just stop. That's all we have to do is just stop.
I noticed you didn't have a license plate on your vehicle. You know why I stopped you? Because you're attempting to cause me financial injury for the state and bar association, I imagine. Is that about right? Because you're a pirate? you don't.
I don't understand them big words.
Yeah, like Chase Allen, right? Yeah, right. You don't have a plate on your vehicle. Yeah, I don't have commercial advertising in my vehicle. That's correct. You know what I mean?
I also don't have funny lights on the top of it. I also don't have a fucking roll bar on the top. I thank you for your astute observation. What can I do for you?
Right, exactly. And that's what it is. Is there an emergency? I noticed you used your emergency lights, which is supposed to be for a crime, which requires a victim. Is there an emergency? Oh, you stopped me because I don't have commercial advertising on my conveyance, right? Well, in the state of whatever, right, in order to operate, so here's the words they're going to use: operate a motor vehicle. It has to be insured and registered, and you have to be licensed. Now, when he said operate and he said motor vehicle, he's trying to put you under his jurisdiction. Juris means law. Diction, like dictionary, means words. The words you use determine the law you are under. So if you say, yes, I'm driving, then you're under United States territorial jurisdiction. You're under UCC, because driving is a fucking term that they made up
Yeah, man.
Just
What
like
I was
firearm.
wondering what would be wrong with saying no, I am actually piloting my personal conveyance.
Right. Well, you have to have a pilot's license then, right? No. You should
Oh,
travel.
do I?
I'm just traveling. I'm just traveling in my personal conveyance. Here's the thing, too, is they say, like, so when you're driving, so here's another term, firearm. You're not allowed to possess a firearm. What? What is a firearm?
Yeah,
What do you mean? Yeah, there's nothing in the Constitution about firearms.
No.
No, because that's a commercial term that they made up under UCC to try to abridge the Second Amendment. There's no firearms here, officer. All I have is arms, which are constitutionally protected under the Second Amendment. And this stuff really works because firearm, this is how they're sneaky little Jew fucks, right? And they use their Jew magic, word sorcery, and make shit up and make up definitions and put them in contracts that you unwittingly sign, and then now you're under fucking the Sheeny curse, right? So,
Do you ever notice that nobody ever says things like, boy, that guy really Baptisted me on that car deal?
he's a real Methodist.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that guy.
That was funny. Yeah, that's true. I wonder why that is. The number one oh, you guys, let's just have a moment to congratulate Mexico's first female president, Gloria Sheinbaum. Gloria Sheinbaum. Yes, Mexico. I did say Mexico. President Sheinbaum.
Oh my God! Oy
Yeah,
vey,
I know.
oy.
You probably couldn't tell, but she is Jewish, right?
Ole, ove.
Ove. Yeah, I
Oy.
wonder why she was put in office, probably to get Mexico in line, I would think.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because yeah. Oh, here's something I want to show you guys.
Well, who would have ever thought the United States? I mean, especially after all the fucking 9/11 terrorist bullshit with the Middle East and everything like that, and then we get a president named Barack Hussein Obama. There you go. That's a real American name, like John Smith or something. Fuck.
They did that on purpose. His name is probably
Yeah.
His name is Barry Sotoro or whatever, and he's fucking. Yeah, he's probably a Kenyan. Who knows? I mean, there's so much stuff. He never did there's so much stuff around that. I was listening to a thing that says his name is lightning that fell from heaven. Basically, he's Lucifer. Yeah, have you seen that?
No. I've heard about it. I've seen it come up on the thing. I just wasn't interested.
Like Barak means lightning in the Strong's Concordance or whatever.
Oh, yeah, on that. Yeah, I know it does. It does. Barak means that. Obama means thunder.
Yeah, it means like to fall or something from heaven or something like that. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't subscribe to that shit generally until I do my own research on it, but it was interesting. I could see it.
Oh yeah, listen, the guy was definitely groomed from a young age. All these clowns are. I mean, I saw a picture of who was it, man? There are three of them with Hitler's daughter there. What's her name? The real dykey looking German broad. What was Angela Merkel, and I'm trying to think two other prime ministers, a British prime minister and somebody else, all when they was just little girls hanging out. So these people this is what goes on with these folks, man, is that they are trained at these elite schools to mimic you, to gain your trust, to pretend like they're like you, but they're not.
100%. And yeah, there's nothing the way that they're taught to act, behave, the way that they're raised, and how they're taught to look at the world is entirely different. They're taught to look at it from an owner's perspective, whereas you're taught to look at it from a fucking worker bee perspective. Check this out, though. So I want to show you guys something. I showed it on my dad's show the other night. And I couldn't even wait. I just had to show it as soon as possible because this is pretty cool. Let me share your screen real quick. You guys will like this. Now remember, again, what I'm about to show you only applies to United States elective franchises, these corporations that you agreed to be through contract. You agreed to be legally present in the United States territorial jurisdiction. So I'm going to show you that. All right, so we'll go here. Well, first we're going to look, what does CARES stand for? So do you guys remember when COVID was going on, the whole, bullshit that they tricked everybody into getting poisoned and shut down all the economies and did irreversible damage? Yeah, that thing. So one of the things that was most effective in helping them propagate this bullshit was the CARES Act. So what the CARES Act did was it paid doctors and hospitals tens of thousands of dollars for every COVID positive case that they had and for every COVID death that they had. So this led to people who, say, got shot in the head or died in a motorcycle accident, or whatever the case may be, being declared a COVID death because they would test them with this test that can test anything positive for anything. Even the owner or the inventor of the test has said that. It's not reliable, cannot be used to diagnose new illnesses. They test them with this thing, cycle it through until they get their positive result, and then list COVID as a comorbidity, and then get tens of thousands of dollars from the government of your money, right? Just for having a COVID death. So I thought he got shot in the head. Wow, yeah, but when we tested his body, he had COVID. So it was a COVID death, right? So we're gonna say what this was called, the CARES Act, that allowed them to do that.
Is it the COVID aid relief?
Yeah, stand for. I just want to show everybody. Yeah.
They always got their cute little fucking nicknames and shit for all this crap.
Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Now check this out. This is right on congress.gov for anybody who, it's right here. Boom. Government website. House Resolution 748, CARES Act. Introduced January 24th, 2019. What? So either they were incredibly prescient, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just basically psychic, right? Or
they had to have been.
Right.
Because they ran the simulation, the event 201 was in October of 2019.
Right. And then when did COVID hit? What, like December 2019 or January or something, 2020? Yeah. So almost a full year before they started that horse shit, they started to lay down, because this is how laws speed of government, speed of bureaucracy. They had to start laying down the groundwork in advance. They can't hide this. Trust me, if they could hide this, they would hide this. They can't hide this from you. I mean, they can strike my channel or they can do it, but this is still on congress.gov. You see what I mean? They have to follow these certain sets of rules. So yeah, January 24th, 2019, they came up with this idea of how to pay hospitals and doctors tens of thousands of dollars for a pandemic that they just knew was coming almost a full year later.
Jesus.
Pretty cool. I just thought you guys would appreciate seeing that.
Well, and the test patent too. Yeah. I mean, for the test was patented in 2015. When I posted that, man, it wasn't 5 minutes. Bam, they got a fact check on it. But then everybody's in the comments posting other proofs.
Look at this shit. January 24, 2019, they're already talking about keeping workers paid and employed, healthcare system enhancements, and economic stabilization, paycheck protection program, state trade expansion, waiver of matching funds, minority business development agency. I bet you there's a whole bunch of fucking pork buried in this bill too.
Oh, there is, man. Every time. be shit in there ain't got nothing to do with what the subject of the bill for.
Here you go, emergency rulemaking authority. I bet you that's where we want to look, because that was the whole point of all this. Emergency rulemaking authority. Interesting. Yeah. I'm going to actually have to read through that at some point. Damn, this pitch is long. Let's see what.
Well, that's how you do it, and when they're big like that, of course, you have to pass it to find out what's inside it.
Yeah, of course. You don't have time to read it before it's passed. So let's see. 111.14. Let's see if we can find that. It's probably not going to be that far down, honestly. Section 2305. Let's see, what section is this? I do like the text version of these. 2201. So it's going to be way up here. Okay, so 111.11. We're almost there. I bet you that's probably some bullshit too. No? Resources and languages other than English. But let's see, 111.14. 13. And 14. Emergency rulemaking authority. Not later than 15 days after the date of enactment of this act, the administrator shall issue regulations to carry out this title and the amendments made by this title without regard to notice requirements under Section 553B of Title V of the United States Code. So that's pretty vague in general. Damn. Let's see. In this, now remember, January 24th of 2019, the term COVID-19 means the 2019 novel coronavirus, or 2019 nCoV.
In January. They already had a name for it and everything in January of 2019.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
My God.
Look at this shit. The term COVID-19 public health emergency means the public health emergency declared by the Secretary of Health and Human Services on January 27th, 2020. What? This is January 24th, I said, of 2019, but they already know. They already know that the Secretary of Health and Human Services is about to declare a national emergency, right? Health emergency, January 27th. Right? Pretty cool. I mean, now, albeit they could have amended this after the fact, but I mean, I don't think so. They just blatantly, see how stupid they think you are, people? They literally just put this shit right out where you could find it, and they're so confident in their bread and circuses routine that they know you'll never find it.
Shit on that. It's just, it gets to a point where you just go, fuck this whole place. You know what I'm saying, man? It really does, especially if you see as much of the shit as I've seen. It's just like, wow, man, this isn't getting better, people. Stop. We need to stop. And having this silly ass left, right off a damn cliff, man. They're marching you, looking for leaders and shit from people that don't even know where the fuck they're going themselves. That's insane.
That is insane.
I resign. Yeah.
You resign?
I resign.
Yeah, no shit. Here's the thing. Yeah, that's literally, they count on people being so stupid or distracted that they're not going to ever find that shit, right? Like, it's right there on congress.gov's website, right? But who's ever going to go look for that? Like, well, I mean, obviously we do. Why don't people look for stuff like this, actually? Like, why doesn't everybody want to know this shit? Why don't you want to know, like, how your overlords are operating?
Because thinking's gay. What are you, a fag or something?
You're reading them words for you, some kind of
What are you
fag.
reading words for? Fag.
Yeah, and so they're sitting there planning everything that's going to happen in 2020 back in January 2019 on the record. And how did we not find that earlier?
I don't know.
Can you imagine how devastating that would have been to them if somebody just blasted that all over the fucking internet?
You would have been fucking shut down. You wouldn't have been allowed to. Remember how hard the censorship was? Every time somebody showed for some kind of proof of their fuckery, it was like, oh, 30-day ban. There's no way to do anything about it. So everybody else is afraid to repost it because, yeah, that guy a ban, Don't do that. Alex Jones got sued. Oh, don't talk about shit.
That meme you sent was funny as shit, by the way. That's awful.
The one I just now sent?
Yeah, the one you just now sent. That's fucking terrible. Definitely can't show that on YouTube. No. But yeah, man. So, well, I guess I'll start wrapping it up. I just basically, here's the plan, man, and here is the only solution. And if you guys are gonna think I don't know what I'm talking about, or think you know better, or think that fucking David Lester Straight or Anna Von Reitz or whoever is the fucking Brandon Joe Williams or whoever is the hot thing right now in the truth community, just giving you little tidbits of real shit and then leading you down rabbit holes of bullshit. And I know, like, I can show you where David Lester Straight's full of shit. I can show you where Anna Von Reitz is full of shit. I can show you now. It has to be intentional. I'm not even going to try to come to their defense, especially with David Lester Straight. He's a fucking CIA. He admits to being a CIA agent. He tells you, I did a lot of work for the CIA. Oh, but you're on our side. Okay, good thing you switched sides and they let you live and all that, right? Yeah, shut up, dude. Fuck out of here. But there is no other solution other than non-compliance. We don't need to go to war unless they attack first, right? Because that's what they want. They want us to go to war. You know why they want us to go to war? You know why, Dad. Why do they want us to go to war?
You throw the first punch. That's it. You're at fault now. You've lost your cool.
Well, not only that, but they also, so do you think our military would turn against us? What about everybody in the audience? Go ahead and on Rumble and YouTube, you guys think that our military would turn against us?
I don't know. It's a crapshoot, Ryan. You got to figure what our military's become made up of.
People like my little brother. There's a lot of people like that.
I don't know, man. I don't know. We got people that are coming into it right now. The desperation that they have for recruitment has caused them to lower their standards to pretty low. And, we're getting these fresh crops of brainwashed fucking people that are worse than we ever got it. These schools are insane. I mean, these schools are just insane. They're not teaching anybody anything other than how to be a cucked out pussy. I'm serious, man. That's all they teach.
Here's what I was going to finish that statement with. I'm sorry, Rebel Patriot over on the Rumble side, he said something I'm going to bring up to you. You'll find it. We've actually got to find some verification of this. Rebel, if you got like a link to this, I'd love for you to put it in the chat. I'll bring it up in a second with the Trump thing. By the way, if you guys are on Rumble side, and I know Rebel Patriot just asked what my YouTube channel is called. It's called Burn the Corporate Fiction, all one word. I think it's, BTCF at 777 is my YouTube email. Yeah. So, but yeah, so the military, this is why they want us to attack first, is because our military, now I'm not saying a lot in the military wouldn't attack us, because of course there's a bunch of tools, a bunch of fucking cucked out sheep, but there's many patriots, and then there's many veteran patriots too. Do you know what I mean? That would not stand for that shit. So you'd have they could never entirely trust any portion of their military, because it'd be, I think there'd be enough people that want to fight back. Now, however, these are our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters, our fathers, mothers, daughters, sons. That's who makes up the United States military. So if we attack them, they can disregard the United States military. I mean, maybe use them in a support capacity, but the United States, and I can't believe I haven't brought this up till now, but the United States is wholly and entirely under the United Nations. All of our laws, our statutes, everything, they're all under the United Nations. We're part of, like, child support, for instance, is part of a United Nations treaty through the Hague. It's its own system, court system, and everything. They want so desperately to be able to pull those United States or those United Nations peacekeepers over here, because that's a foreign military, and they will have no problem taking our guns and shooting us and stuff if it came down to it. So Rebel Patriot, he says Trump's death jab patented in 2015, which is interesting. I like how he does say that he's the father, the godfather. What is he? How does he say he's the fucking father, the jab or some shit? And he brags about it.
Yeah,
and people don't see that as a huge red flag either.
Oh.
They don't see that as a problem. But I could see taking the angle, like, oh, well, maybe he was misinformed or measled, which I doubt, right? But I could see how some people would believe that. When I seen him talk about bringing in the death penalty for anti-Semitism.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that for speech, you're going to kill people for what they say, especially when it's true.
We don't want to forget that during the Obama administration, the United States government ordered a shit ton of guillotines.
Hold on. So Rebel Patriot said this. No, I do remember Obama getting the guillotine. He said, Trump said on Truth Social, which obviously none of us have. At least I hope you don't. He said that his vaccine is curing cancer now. That's what he said.
Wow.
He said it's curing. Not only did it work, but it's curing people's cancer.
He's the COVID vaccine.
Yes, the COVID vaccine is curing people's cancer. I heard kind of the opposite thing, but
Wow. Yeah, and listen, that's your best choice. That's your lesser of two evils. Really?
I hate to say it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's fucked up, man.
But here's the thing: is that's the whole point. That's why the key is, so Trump will buy us more time. Because the Jews will get their puppet in there is the whole point. You see what I'm saying? Like, it'll buy us a little bit more time, but the only thing that's ever going to solve this whole situation is non-compliance. We're not United States citizens. I don't give a fuck who's president of that corporation. As long as that corporation stays the fuck within its 10 square miles that we put it in, its little cage, and doesn't come out of there, it can do whatever the fuck it wants to do in there, right? We're not United States citizens. You're not a United States citizen. You're a Virginian. I'm a Michiganian, right? And this, of course, for my viewers outside the country, this really applies to it. But the non-compliance situation, so one thing I'll end on this topic, and we can discuss this a little bit, is every country. So we're growing up with the patriot mythology, right? I've heard it called that. I think it's appropriate as this is the free country and it's the best country on earth and blah, 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 right? And all that shit. Every country at one point in time was set up like that. Like, think about this. Every country has a constitution, right?
Right.
Doesn't it? And they're told they're free and all that shit, right?
Yep.
So it's almost like there was some sort of thing that happened in like the 1400s or something, where people got free of the yoke of monarchs and fucking the church and all that stuff, and were enabled to establish things like the Magna Carta and well, I don't even want to say the Constitution because that's a document of enslavement, but the Articles of Confederation, stuff like that, which is just basically building upon the Magna Carta. And we established a system of law, which up until that point was unknown, called common law, where it was based on the idea that you're free and you're held to your contracts, but you can't be forced into a contract. And as long as you don't hurt anybody and you honor your contracts, then you're good. And somehow every country has a form of that. Do you know what I mean? Or like, you know, at least the major Western European ones, like, okay, so England, obviously, Ireland, all them get, well, they kind of got taken over by the English, but you know what I'm saying? So here's the thing. We just need to not participate, because the only thing that is propping up their entire system is our willingness to consent and engage and participate and pay. And what would they do if we just, if all of us just didn't go to work tomorrow? Not all of us watching this. We got 61 over here, 22 over on Rumble. But what if like a third of the country just didn't go to work tomorrow?
Mm-hmm.
Right? What if we just said, fuck you? What if, you know what I'm saying? What if you had every single person that gets pulled over tomorrow told the cop to go fuck himself? What are you pulling me over for? Speeding? Yeah, well, who did that hurt? You want to generate revenue for me not obeying your revenue generating traffic code? Go fuck yourself, dude. I can go as fast as I want to go. Well, you might hurt somebody. So?
Well, you might hurt somebody. You got a gun. Right. Statistics show that you do hurt people an awful lot. You kill people.
Right.
So why are you coming up here and putting me in danger?
Exactly. Right. So he says, Grippin McGroin is one of my viewers on Rumble. He says to go to Magna Carta 38. So I'm going to see if I can find that real quick. Now, I don't know why, but I've never actually read through the entirety of the Magna Carta, and I should, because it pretty much is the foundation of common law. So we've got it right here in the National Archives. If it ever loads, it's a PDS. 38. Huh. 38, you say. This one ends at 37. Huh. This literally ends at 37. It makes me wonder, are you sure there's a Magna Carta 38? There probably is, and it probably cuts it short, because whatever that is... Huh. Hold on. Okay, so I'll show you guys. This might be what he's talking about. Maybe it's 37. Why are you taking so long?
Sending a fucking hit squad to your location.
Yeah, they probably wish they could. Let's see. 37 we have here. It says scutage. I don't know what that means. Scutage, furthermore, is to be taken as it used to be in the time of King Henry, which, why do they have Henry and the rest of it in parentheses is just King H? Oh, you know, it's a transcription. It's probably a damaged document. Our grandfather, and all liberties and free customs shall be preserved to archbishops, bishops, abbots, priors, templars, hospitallers, earls, barons, and all others, both ecclesiastical and secular persons, just as they formerly had. Oh, you know what this is? This is the Declaration of London retaining its independence as like its own corporation, the ancient customs and usages. I think, if I remember correctly, that's in the first part. Yeah, I'll have to read through this and get back to you guys on this, but that's interesting that it's talking about securing the liberties to basically the church people. You know what I mean?
You mean the clergy or the parishioners?
No, it says archbishops, bishops, abbots, priors, templars, hospitallers, earls, barons, and all others, both ecclesiastical and secular persons, just as they formerly had. All these foresaid customs and liberties which we have granted to be held in our realm, insofar as it pertains to us, are to be observed by all of our realm, both clergy and laity, insofar as pertains to them in respect to their own men. Interesting, though, how it includes Templars and Hospitallers. Maybe the Magna Carta, maybe I was wrong, and the Magna Carta was actually for the fucking lawyers, like for these fucking, because Templar means a student of the law. Hospitallers weren't much different. That's actually why we call hospitals hospitals, and that's actually why they're able to, that's where they issue your birth certificate at the hospital, and that's where your whole enslavement starts.
They used to blatantly write. Well, a lot of times they still do. They got a cross on there.
On what, the birth certificate?
No, on the hospital.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, they're all like Catholic and
like St. Joseph's Hospital in Pontiac there.
Yeah. Yep, St. Joseph Mercy.
Your grandmother was a nurse there.
Really?
Yeah.
That's where I was born, and that's where Alexis was born as well.
My cousin, my brother Steve was born there too.
It's a nice, it's actually a very nice hospital. I respect the way they did things. I will say that. Catholic hospital, but here we go. We've got Jehovah's daughter to the rescue. Too bad I can't copy that. Wait, well, maybe I can click it. And let's see. Okay, I'll click it here, and then I'll just send it to myself, and well, I guess I could have just went to YouTube on the computer, couldn't I? Oh, well, yeah, that'd probably be a lot faster. Let's do that. We'll see what she's talking. We'll see what they're both talking about, and then I'm probably going to shut her down here in a second. My channel. Hit pause. Oh, it's already muted. That works. Boom. Holy shit, my computer's slow. It's probably because I started talking about the Jews.
Most likely.
Yeah, generally it's what.
You're rerouting this through Tel Aviv.
All right, we now can see what Magna Carta 38 is. Thank you, Jehovah. Jehovah's daughter, Barbara. Sorry, Jehovah. Thank you, Jehovah. Magna Carta, Clause 38. Henceforth, no bailiff shall upon his own unsupported accusation put any man to trial without producing credible witnesses to the truth of the accusation. That's awesome. That's funny because look, that is funny that's not in the copy I just showed you guys was from archives.gov, and it stops at 37. Right? And it stops at 37. So they took that. That's just another way, like how they omit the 14th Amendment shit and stuff like that, right? It's pretty interesting.
Just don't tell you about it. It's like you're not lying, but I'm sorry, man. My view on that is omission is lying.
Do you know how powerful that is, though? No bailiff. So you have to have a credible witness to the truth of the accusation. Now, in order for the accusation to be under common law, there has to be a victim. So they have to produce a credible witness. Now, and that's the thing that people don't understand is that law builds on itself. Even when a new country is created, like the United States, right? The continental United States of America, when this republic was formed and each of the several states adopted constitutions, all that stuff, they didn't just make up a new law. They took English common law and adopted that and then started building upon it under their new government in America, and it became known as American common law, right? But it didn't just pop up out of nowhere. So, these judges and stuff in the early days of the Republic, like in the late 1700s, early 1800s, when judges generally look to previous judges' opinions and summaries of various situations, there were no previous United States judges. So where do you think they looked? England, English common law. In fact, in like the Penhallow versus Stone's administrators, they cite English common law quite a bit. And so with this being the case, and this being the foundation of American common law, and clause 38 right there, that's hugely important, because this is basically it's a fundamental staple of common law in itself. And now if you're not under commercial law, you're under common law. In order to be under commercial law, you have to be under contract, and they have to prove that you're under contract. When you know how to challenge and question these things, that's the whole point of questioning jurisdiction, understanding how to explain the fraud. That's why that Ryan Michael Thor guy, when he's like, can you produce, can you tell me the nature and cause of the charges against me, basically? And he's like, let me see if I can play that real quick for you guys, and then we'll shut her down, because that's a really good one. I just got to find it, and that's going to take a second. So bear with me for a second. What is the fastest way to find this? What do you think the fastest way? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. Cool. It came right up. All right, hold on. Let me pause that. And then I got to share the actual window.
Man, I am not the entity known as Ryan Michael Thor, just to clear that. I am here on special appearance under threat, duress, and coercion to challenge subject matter jurisdiction and also personal jurisdiction as well. I filed my paperwork for you on Friday, and the clerk illegally denied it. I went again this morning and filed my paperwork again for you. The clerk again illegally denied it, even though I gave her a notice telling her it's a felony for her not to accept my paperwork. And actually, it's in law, it's considered filed when I gave it to her. So well, Your Honor, I mean, I'm going to have to ask a few questions first, which first of all is I need to understand the nature and the cause of the charges against me, as well as I need to know, is this a civil jurisdiction or criminal jurisdiction? Criminal. Ryan Thor is the living man. Ryan Michael Thor is the defendant in error. It's the artificial person. So thank you, Your Honor. Let the record of the court show that the action against me is criminal. And now I have another question, because the Constitution grants us two different criminal jurisdictions, okay? One criminal jurisdiction is under the common law, and the other is under the criminal jurisdiction of admiralty or military tribunal venue from Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution. Well, I need to know which of these two jurisdictions that you intend to try me. It's very important because they're done different ways. The rules of civil procedure are very different in a criminal jurisdiction, obviously for common law, and a military. Your Honor, I need to get these other questions answered. I need to know what the jurisdiction is, and I need to know also who the injured party is. The nature and cause of this. I need to know who the injured party is. I need to know who's bringing the claim. Thank you, Your Honor, but I don't think you'd be violating your oath of office by doing your duty under the Constitution. Okay? Your Honor, I just motioned for a dismissal because if this is a criminal jurisdiction, as you're claiming, I need to see a verified complaint and I need from the injured party, and I have to have an opportunity to face my accuser, as you mentioned at the beginning of this entire hearing. So who is the injured party? That's the question. Who's the injured party? Why am I here? I don't understand why I'm here.
Perfect. You didn't pay us for permission to do something. We're injured.
All right, so what else? So he just has count 1 and count 2, and he showed the proof of claim. All right, sir, I'm going to just exercise my discretion on the dismiss count 1 and dismiss count 2 and just order the fees that you've already paid to cover court costs. Okay?
So
no charges are pending against you. They've been dismissed. Interest of justice.
So I want to point this out real quick to everybody. She wants to keep his money because they've already generated asset-backed securities off of this case, off this obligation, and they've sold those securities. Yeah. So either he has to pay the investor or they do, and it comes out of her ass or the prosecutor's ass or both, right? That's why she wants to keep his money. So we're all the charges are dismissed, but we're going to keep your money for what if they're dismissed? What the fuck are you talking about? Well, it's good. Well, we owe people money now because we generated securities off you, and then
So I'm letting the record show that the defendant Ryan Michael Thor with case CMZ 606406, all charges are dismissed. Is that correct?
And whatever fees were paid are going towards court costs. Okay.
Well, those fees are bail, and they should be returned after dismissal.
Okay.
Court costs. You mean, court cost, like shit that's going to cost the court money now. Yeah, exactly.
You know what? I don't have a problem with returning your fees.
Thank you.
You don't have a choice, bitch.
Wait. All right. Have a good day, Mr. Thor.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your time.
You're very welcome. Matthew Martinez, CMZ 30058. Mr. Martinez, good morning, sir. Thank you for being patient. I know you're at the end of the calendar.
Egg on her face.
Yeah, man. Fucked her hard, boy. I like it.
That's it. That's how he did it, though. He didn't. Oh, I guess I could have took that off. He didn't. And thank you again, Barb, for that. He didn't challenge the charges. He challenged the jurisdiction. Okay, so now those charges are completely valid if I'm under contract. You know that I'm not under contract, or you know that at least I'm not supposed to know that I'm under contract. So we're going to talk about that.
Do you got a link to that you can put in the chat for the folks?
100%. Yeah, no problem.
All these cool people that show up here, we're at the cool kids lunch table. That's where you're at, people. This is like the lunch table for the cool kids right here.
Here you guys go. And then I'll put it on the Rumble side too for you guys over here. There we go. We got this. What is this? Let me see. Copy link. Let's see. Somebody put the real Slim Shady is back. Put a link over here. Let's see what this is real quick before I shut her down. Interesting. Drip. Yeah, no, I don't think we'll be watching that. Sorry, man. Maybe I'll check it out on my personal time, but I don't think that really is relevant to the topic. So yeah, no, that's what he did, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. Don't fight him. Like, don't argue with them. Don't dispute them, because then you're in dishonor, and that's a whole other topic in itself. See, there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. Like, courts of equity are all about retaining honor and not falling into dishonor, because then you lose, and that's like an ancient English thing also, and that's its own. So there's a lot of stuff to know once you start getting into the finer points of this, but all you need to essentially know is that you're not under contract. You're not a United States citizen. Prove to me that I committed a crime. Did I hurt somebody? That's it. Where's the witness? Where's the signed sworn affidavit? Right? What kind of court is this? Right? Like how he led her into it. And that's why that is one thing I like that David Lester Straight says. He says, when you're asking, you're as king. Right? So you place the burden of proof on the other person, just like when you're in a debate, like the flat earth, globe earth debates. You don't make claims.
Right.
Because if you make a claim, you have to prove it, right? No, you ask questions, right? How come we see so far? How would a rocket work in space? How does it? No, now you need to prove that this impossible shit is possible. The same thing applies to law. How? What do you mean? How did I commit a crime? There's no victim. What did I do? Why am I being threatened with financial injury or personal injury for what? How am I in a court right now? You know what I mean? Prove to me how you have the right to be dragging me in here and threatening me.
That's exactly it, man.
And that's what he said. He said, he says, what's the nature and cause of the charges against me? What kind of court is this? Criminal? Okay, cool. Well, there's only 2 types of criminal courts. Yeah, and he's right. Congress, I don't think the clause is actually 17. I'll show you guys real quick. But it's the military tribunal, and he's 100% right, and it's under Congress. It's, where are you at here? I'll just share the window. This is what he was talking about. Only 2 types of criminal courts. If it ever loads, apparently. They're getting to the hardest stuff now. They don't like that. Holy shit, man. They're like, you're not showing anybody shit. All right, so he's Article 1. Article 1 has everything to do with Congress. All these courts are created through the power of Congress to administer the bankruptcy. And the way that they're erected is a unique combination of bankruptcy law and military tribunal, which combines the Lieber Code from the Civil War with the bankruptcy in 1933. And so basically they're using military tribunals to enforce the bankruptcy. And it's very creative and clever, but it doesn't hold up. So if we did Section 8 and he said 17, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. See, it's 9, Section 9, tribunals, right? And 10 to define, punish piracies, felonies, etc. These are their abilities to create courts. So it's 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Well, yeah, it could be this too. To exercise, you might be right, under Clause 17, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district not exceeding 10 miles square. Well, no, that's their limit, exactly. As may, by secession of particular states and the acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government in the United States. And to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of legislature of the state in which the same shall be for the erection of forts, magazines. Oh, yeah, he's right. It is 17. I stand corrected. That's exactly what happened. They took their territorially occupying the state under the Lieber Code, essentially, making uniform laws for the administration of the bankruptcy, which was right here, uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies, which is what the trust indentures under. And the courts they're creating are essentially military tribunals being exercised in parts of the state that have been ceded to them. So Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17, military tribunal. Or is this a common law court, which is Article 3, Section 2, and not equity, because this is contract also, but this is common law contract. This is law. This is common law. This is disputing stipulations, provisions of a contract. There's a victim. Law and equity. That's why they make a distinction between the two. So anyway, I think I'm going to shut her down. Sorry again for, let me get rid of the what'd you call it? Tesseract? Yeah.
Tesseract, yeah.
Tesseract. Sorry for having taken so much time off in between. I just, you guys may feel sometime that I'm beating a dead horse with going over the same stuff, but have you ever seen anybody cover this, the mortgage of your property rights and all that? You might hear some stuff like it, but not this stuff, because this is the fundamental crux of the entire scam, is the mortgage of your property rights.
It's also this too. You go over it a number of times because of the fact that it's like this. If you ever notice when you watch a movie and then you watch the movie again and you see a bunch of shit you missed the first time?
100%.
Right. And then even watching it a third time, you pick up even more and put more shit together, little things that were going on that you didn't realize, so yeah, it's kind of along that same thing. You didn't just learn how to ride a bike one time and then just stop. You rode your bike all over the place, right? So you got good at it. Now you have that skill. It's muscle memory in your brain, right? So you got to put your brain muscle and, exercise it.
Well, that's why that you're exactly right. I appreciate you saying that. And that's why I tell people when I go over this stuff, I know my regular viewers have seen this, but listen, you can never see it too much until you understand it, live it, breathe it like I do. Everything I look at is through the lens of this information. Understanding. I see what cops really are. I see what politicians really are. I see what the media really is. I see everything. And then it makes all the other stuff. This, like I say constantly, this and flat earth are the two most important scams being perpetrated against the human race. They're the fundamental perception that controls your daily life, that through which you live your daily life. Like, that you're on a globe spinning through space, meaningless, doesn't matter, blah, blah, blah. And that, government is God, and that you have permission for everything. And both.
Well, that was literally one of the messages in the subliminal that they would play during the sign-off national anthem at the end of the broadcast evening. I guess like everybody was supposed to stand up and have a patriotic moment. I mean, although they had the words to the Star-Spangled Banner going across the bottom of the screen, it was only instrumental. So what was supposed to be going on? Were we supposed to be standing up and singing this with our hands over our heart or anything? No, you'd inadvertently read that if you were still watching it. And those little fucking subliminal messages, government is God, trust government, all that fucking shit that's in there. And I've shown that before. Man, that's powerful, man. That's powerful. That whole shit, laughing at backmasking. You don't know how the mind works, man. Your mind will hear shit that's backwards. It will.
It's super powerful. So esoterically, and I mean, you guys know that I'm into that. They call your conscious mind in occult circles the watchman at the gate. Your mind itself is like a garden. Okay. So whatever the watchman at the gate allows into the mind becomes seeded into the mind, and then it blossoms as a thought or action that you believe to be your own. So what they do, so if the watchman at the gate is asleep, anything can come in, right? And then next thing you know, the seeds that are planted start producing fruit, which are your thoughts and actions. And they are whatever is being put into your head by other people, because you're not watching what's going into your mind. That's actually the entire science behind movies, is they distract you with colors, music, action, sex, whatever the case may be. They're distracting you with the storyline, while everything in that scene and the way that the language is written in the script those things are programming you subconsciously. And they've put the watchman at the gate to sleep. And that's how that works. And with, like you said, back in the 60s, when they were doing that with the national anthem, that was when they first started really fucking around with it as it can be used in television and mainstream media and stuff like that. Now they've perfected it. So, like I said, I'm sorry for having for having been gone. I wanted to really think about what I wanted to focus this channel on. And it's basically, dude, every time you guys watch me, I'm promoting non-consent. I think maybe next weekend we'll watch some cop videos and see where the person could have done better, and start training you guys up on how to deal with these fucking pirates, because it's when you see them for what they are and you see through their bullshit, it almost does something on a different level. Like, they know you see through their bullshit. And that entire air of authority dissipates to some degree, because they're like, oh shit, this guy knows, even if they don't know, it just comes through, in my opinion. So why don't you go ahead and plug your channel, Dad, and tell them about some stuff you got coming up, and then we'll.
All right. So, well, let's see here. Despite my channel is Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind, most of you know that. On the 11th, and that's going to be Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern time on my channel. I will be having Pastor Will Duffy, and I believe Ryan is going to be there as well. A couple other people, Flatsoid should be there. And we're going to kind of just have a conversation with Pastor Will Duffy, some of which regarding this so-called final experiment, which I say is just an observation. Of course, that is what it is. There is no independent variable. I mean, I don't know where they get this from, but either way, I want to talk about some of that, as well as some of his views on how he could be a pastor and still think that the earth is a globe, when it clearly states that, God created not a globe. I mean, come on, man, Right. We're going to go there. And of course, Flatsoid's really quite well versed on that level of it. So it should be a fun show. Also, on the 18th, I have a debate coming up with the infamous Sean Hawkins, who is a really vile little creature. So if you want to see me debate Gollum, then by all means show up on the Jeranism show on the 18th, and that should be, let's see, it's 3 o'clock their time, so it's 6 o'clock my time, 6 o'clock Eastern time. So I'm also found on Rumble at SSUM369. So you can find me there, and a lot of good stuff. We have fun. Subscribe, hit the bell, show up, ask your questions. I always post a link. If you want to come up, we'll discuss whatever, as long as it's within the range of topic. But
Rebel Patriot suggested, have you ever thought about trying to reach out to Dean Odle? I don't know who this guy is. I've seen people were writing him in on ballots for, I think, governor or something. Wherever he's
what happened? You cut out for me for a second. What did you say?
Oh, so Rebel Patriot on the Rumble side, he says you should reach out to Pastor Dean Odle. I don't know who that guy is specifically, but I've seen some stuff on him. I've seen people were writing him in on a ballot for governor.
Yeah. He's the guy that did that debate where at Greg Locke's church in Tennessee.
Okay.
Now you remember when Greg Locke threw everybody out of his fucking church and said, if you believe in flat earth, don't ever come back?
I know that guy's a psycho, but yeah.
And it was like just a week or so after that, his fucking roof caved in on his church.
Did it really?
Yeah. God would not have you with that boy. Ooh.
Well, he thought he thinks he's God. He's up his own. He's crazy. He's burning books and shit, dude.
He's a prison preacher. He's a prison house preacher. He found the Lord in prison. And he's got that prison Baptist vibe about his ass, man.
I could see that. Yeah, he's used to talking fire and brimstone to a bunch of crooks. Yeah.
Yep.
And then he goes and he's around civilized people and he comes off as fucking crazy. He does, dude. He's nuts. Like, at first I was kind of into him because he was going hard on some stuff. And it was like, okay, yeah, that's necessary. But then he goes that hard on everything. Like, you probably bring him a shitty cup of coffee and damn.
Well, see, as far as like seeing a 24-hour sun in the Antarctic, Nathan Oakley just
recently talked to a guy who was stationed in Antarctica for 18 months and said that there is no 24-hour sun, man.
I don't doubt it.
Even with the observation, here's what should happen, right? You wouldn't even have to watch it for 24 hours, just for enough time to see if it arcs around you or if it arcs away from you. So in other words, you're standing there looking, you'll have to look north because the sun is always like where the tropic, it never comes in, it'll be closest to the Tropic of Capricorn at that time, right? So what should happen is it should come in from an east by northeasterly direction when you see it. Okay, that's where it would be going. And if you are in, where you're going to get a 24-hour sun, as it goes away from you west, which of course now is going to be to your left, as you watch it go to the west, if it starts tracking west by northwest, you're not on a fucking ball. If it starts tracking west by southwest, then you are. It's that simple.
So here's the thing. I understood what you were saying perfectly fine. I can see it in my mind's eye, but sometimes you explain shit more complicated than you need to. You do. Like,
yeah. Did you get it though? I mean,
I got it.
It's either going to arc away from you or toward you.
There you go. That's how you just break it down simply. I do the same shit actually, and I'm conscious of it. But yeah, you just did that, and I was like, man, you could have just said like what you said just now. But that's exactly.
I was seeing it in real time.
Right.
So I was describing it happening both ways.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. No, my thing with that is here's something, and you guys can think I'm crazy if you want, and I prove the stuff about law that I talk about on here. I prove it with hard evidence, right? Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing. When it comes to the sun, I do think that the sun that's generally out there is fake as shit. Okay, mm-hmm. I do. I've been at Williams Lake in Waterford, and I seen the sun the way it was shining down on the lake one day. It was just a bright hot circle right there on the lake. I mean, I don't know if it was hot, but it looked like concentrated like through a magnifying glass. I'm like, that's fucking weird. Usually the sun's rays should be like scattered out across the lake, not just directly down on it. So I took out my phone, and it was just a cheap little like Metro phone at the time, and I snapped the picture, and then I didn't really think anything about it. I ended up back at where I was staying later on, and I look at the picture, and there's like a perfect black diamond in the center of the sun. The picture that I took, like hard, sharp edges that couldn't just be made by the camera. There was sharp edges. You know what I mean? Mm. So I started thinking about it. Then a little while later, Jamie Lee, who just passed away not too long ago. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. A Plain Truth. .info is his website. I didn't like everything he did, and he was a Wall Street guy, but he was pretty solid, and his information was pretty good a lot of the time. And he started talking about a company called Solarin. Now, I've recently looked up this company, and they aren't what they were when he was covering it, but I remember it was called Solarin. I'm about 99% sure it could be Solaris, but I think it's Solarin. And they had made a fucking... he left a link. I clicked on the article and everything. They had made a fucking what they call the sun simulator, the size of a football table or football field, made out of like mirrors, basically, and it was pretty crazy, man. And it was the size of a football field. They made this fucking thing, and and then I kind of took it for granted at the time. I'm like, damn, why would you even make that? What are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with a big ass lamp the size of a football field? What are you going to do with it? Mm-hmm. Right? What else would you do with it? You're launching that bitch in the sky. You're not trying to light the ocean or nothing, Like, I totally think that. So what I was thinking is I don't know for sure, and I would never say I did, that those exist. But I would bet that they do. And I would bet that where's this pastor getting this fucking money from?
Well, he's a self-made millionaire. Now he's only paying for one flat earther and one glober, but they got room to have these other people come with them.
I
Okay.
thought he was going to pay for a second flat earther when I watched.
I don't know what's going on. I think they're going to crowdfund
No.
and see if they can get for Witsit.
He said he was going to pay for a second. I watched it.
Oh, okay.
watched the
Okay.
whole
Yeah,
thing.
it keeps updating. I don't keep
So
up.
if Jaron gets Witsit to go with him, this guy's got enough money to pay all expenses, plus whoever goes on the Globe side, which will probably be two people since he's now paying for two people on it. So how much money are you talking about? Now, I'm always suspicious of this is stuff I'm going to bring to him when you're done talking to him and I can ask him some questions. I'm going to bring this shit up to him. I'm suspicious of self-made millionaires. I am. Especially if you're a self-made millionaire, and of all the things that you could do, you're now going to investigate flat earth from the opposing side with your newfound fortune. If you're smart enough to become a self-made millionaire, you're smart enough to figure out you're not on a fucking globe. Or you know what I mean?
Well, now here's the story is that he was a financial advisor and he made some good investments, and he also wrote some like self-improvement books or some shit like that, and he became a millionaire by 33. And yeah, so the thing is, he says, he's got it. He's very confident behind it. He's very confident behind it. Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, listen, normally that shit's campy and bullshit, but like in an instance like that, where
I know it was by his 30s. I'm not sure if it was exactly 33, but it seems like I did hear it was 33, and I went, well, isn't that interesting?
Right. No, so I'm trying to tell you, like, there's something not right with that. I don't think that they would, whoever put the money. Listen,
the moment I heard McToon was involved, I'm like, how the fuck is McToon and a pastor connected? That's my first thing. That's my first thought.
No, that's
then he got that
good.
covered. He said they met down there at that debate in Nashville. Okay. But still, when people found out Toon was involved, man, it was like, holy shit. Red flags went up with trumpets blaring. You know, it's like, okay, something's fucked about this.
So that is actually very suspicious. That doesn't make sense. And then on top of
all these Globers are like, I'm in. We're all like looking, well, give us some more details on this first, you know?
Would you say that this is the most expensive project in the world right now concerning flat earth, whether proving it for or against? Would you say this is the most expensive experiment in the world right now concerning flat earth? Think about that.
I would imagine it probably is, but I don't think it's really going to happen, though. I really don't.
No, but here's the thing. Imagine, this is what I'm saying. If it doesn't happen, then obviously. But if it does happen, the amount of money that's going behind this and the fact that it's being applied to flat earth is enough to draw attention. Yeah. Especially since flat earth already has attention. If you don't think there's some powerful entities getting involved in this, if it actually is going through and it is a real thing, and that they probably preemptively came up with the idea because they know humanity's almost at a point where they're going to go down and start checking shit out anyway. So they preemptively did it. And you don't think they'd use a solar simulator? I'm telling you, man.
I don't know, man. Something's fucking fishy about
I know it sounds crazy, but I'm telling you. Just look into sun simulators. They're fucking, it's a thing. Jamie Lee did a whole thing on it. The company had a website. It was proud of it. It was all sorts of crazy shit. I couldn't find it recently, though. I will say that. But I because I seen that, I'm like 99% sure that that's a thing.
Yeah, I've heard other people suggest that as well. And
and I'm pretty much sure they're not going to let you go down there and find out that there's not a 24-hour sun.
Probably.
We've got already, God dang it, man. We've already got testimony of people that have fucking lived down there. People that were like this guy just recently on Nathan Oakley. He was there for 18 months. Said there's no 24-hour sun, man.
So Rebel Patriots asking what the details are we're talking about. So let me just give everybody who is not aware of my dad's channel or anything that goes on.
Or you just go over to the Final Experiment channel, and he's got.
Well, I'm going to give him a brief summary. Is basically it's like Flat Earth. Each show on Flat Earth has its own unique aspect and approach and all that stuff. And then there's like an undercurrent. You know what I mean? Behind there, where there's the regulars. Like you got the regulars that circulate all the Flat Earth channels, and they're globers, and they're the same people, and that's why most Flat Earthers know them. And one of them's Fight the Flat Earth, Craig, who is insufferable. Like I literally can hardly tolerate watching him. McToon, who's just strange.
He's awful.
You know, and then you got these guys. So long story short, they ended up coming up with an agreement. Some random like windfall investor decides to come out of nowhere just from the goodness of his heart and for the sake of figuring out whether the earth is flat or not, who just came into a bunch of money, is going to fund a trip to Antarctica to determine whether or not a 24-hour sun exists.
Yeah, McKeegan's going too.
Yeah, so to figure out whether or not because it would have to exist for a globe to be the case, and it's not going to because it circles around the ice wall. And now that's where I get to my next point. If you guys don't know anything about that, go check out my dad's channel. He's got some really good shit. Just give it about an hour, and you'll start to be like, wait, yeah, that's fucking weird. And then you're gonna wake up because you're smart enough to find this shit. So I know you're smart enough to learn you're not on a goddamn globe.
Oh my God. Yeah. Listen, what they've done to you, they have hijacked your reality completely. They've given you what I call like collective amnesia. The first three things that an amnesia patient asks: who am I? Where am I? And what day is it? Well, they've got you in an artificial time. They've got you in an artificial place. And all of this is an illusion. I mean, the idea, you think about this. I stumped a guy on a show the other day. He put out this 7-hour and 45-minute fucking video of what looked like to me was globe damage control. Okay, they're in damage control right now. This is why you're seeing so many space launches and Starlink and all this other fucking nonsense. And videos popping out of nowhere. Why are flat earthers stupid and shit like that? They're in heavy duty damage control because more and more people are realizing it. It's exponential and they can't stop it. And no more of their nonsense is like trying to patch a bursting dam with a piece of Scotch tape. It's not working. And I think it's hilarious to watch this effort. They're coming out of the woodwork from everywhere. And methinks the lady doth protest too much. And maybe you should too. But you've been lied to about where you are, and everything is the antithesis of its actual reality. True Luciferian inversion, man.
You know what I just thought of, though? And no, you're 100% right about that. But you know what we should do? Because this is like a good dynamic and a good topic. Maybe you and I should get together and join, because you can stream from more than one place at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so you could be on my show right now streaming to your channel.
Right.
Right. So we can increase the amount of people we reach with the information, and we could have conversations on just like the truth community and like the shit people should look out for, because one of our greatest pitfalls in this community, and I hate even the term because it's so overused and misused, but it's a community of people that are engaged in the truth, is the people that lead them astray type deal. You know, when we have conversations about people that frequent the community, whether they be on any side of any issue, and you notice they're full of shit, you and I could have conversations about them, and it would be probably pretty interesting.
That would be an interesting thing. We'll have to set something up like that. Yeah.
Probably be pretty interesting because, like, we could really go into McToon and fucking fight the flat Earth, and there's probably some
here's what most of us have come to now. This is where this has progressed to. Okay. The last appearance for McToon or for Fight the Flat Earth on Jaronism's Debateism X was the very last one that he was on. That's it. No more. We're not going to entertain these fools. Now, I've had an open challenge to Sean Hawkins, and he's been called a coward enough times that he finally responded to my challenge. So that's why that'll be on there.
Why wouldn't you guys entertain them? Do you know how many flat earthers both them guys have probably made?
Well, I'll tell you why. Here's why right now. It's already going. It's already going, right? And so as we do our shows and we talk about these things, I'm not talking about genuine people who, you know, may actually believe that it's a globe and then, you know, can realize some shit. I'm talking about these flat earth haters. We're not going to give them any more attention. You either want to know how it is or how your claim is wrong or what you've been told is wrong, or you don't, man.
Well, I mean, the logical fallacies are priceless, though, and the way these guys contradict themselves and the hypocrisy.
But a lot of us have just decided where, like, as far as McToon, look, if we don't give them they can't do anything without us. No, they don't have a channel without us.
You should keep giving them the same heavy hitters then that fuck them up every time, like Witsit. Just have them debate every time. You want to debate a flat earth, you can debate Witsit.
Well, they've gotten to the point now where McToon is just so fucking vile and has said some nasty shit. Same thing with FTFE about Witsit and his children. You know, and then he's bringing the children into it. Witsit said, I don't even want to fucking talk to these guys. Fuck them. They've already been shown to be wrong a million times on every damn platform, X, everywhere. They've been shown to be retarded. Don't give them a platform because without us, they don't have a platform.
No, I want to point out something, though. And it also leads to why they're so effective at making flat earthers. Who hates an idea so much that they think is so ridiculous? Like, if you're going to insult somebody and their children and shit, like, literally, it's fighting terms at that point, right? Like, I don't give a fuck. Call it what you want, primitive, lowbrow, I don't care. Like, you talk about my kids, you know, it's go time. So, willing to go to that level of ad hominem and debasement and just over something they think is the most ridiculous thing because obviously it must be so fucking ridiculous. It's so dumb, right? Like, who could honestly believe that? It's so ridiculous. How would somebody get so violently angry over stuff like that?
I know. That's what you got to look at, man. It's like you got to and I say this for the just normies that get triggered when someone says that the earth is flat. And I don't want an answer. I want you to ask yourself this question. Why does that trigger me so badly? That's really weird, man. Why would that bother me so fucking bad? Now, your consciousness will try to scramble for reasons like, well, because they're going to destroy our technology or they're going to keep us from progressing in science and shit. But no, that's not going to happen. And if anything, we'll actually progress. Because we'll be working from a place of reality and not from fiction. So anybody that thinks it's saying that they're sending all this shit out into space and probes and astronauts and all that crap, dude, that's not progress. That's illusion. That's Disney World horse shit.
It's 100%. They had the astronaut that almost drowned in his spacesuit. So now they put some shit in there.
The whole prospect of space is a violation of the second law of thermodynamics. It can't even exist.
It's a logical fallacy. Yeah, it's a logical fallacy, 100%. But people don't realize that, and that's the amazing thing about the fucking black magic that they pull on people is it's ridiculously, scarily like effective.
Based in Jewish mysticism, man.
Sort of.
It is
it goes,
absolutely the whole Copernican model was. You got to see what some of these guys said about it.
it goes
Bringing
even.
their ancient religion from Egypt and shit to modern day.
I'm not talking about the people behind it. I'm talking about the knowledge itself. It is not human.
Oh yeah. Oh, behind the deception? No, of course not.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. It's not human.
No.
Fuck the puppets. We all see the puppets for who they are. I'm talking about like the implications of what's behind it. That's why everybody's so afraid of it, because what that ultimately means somewhere in their mind, they know that means if they can pull something off like that, that means that this entire place is just fucking fake. And it's like you went into like a mocked up strip mall that was actually like a butcher shop. And that's what, you know what I mean?
Well, Leanne and I were going to Walmart. God, I hate that place. And this was a couple weeks ago or so. And we're pulling into the place, and I'm looking at all these fucking zombies walking around. You know, all these really unhealthy looking, fat, pasty fucking people taking up all the handicap spots and shit, right? And I said, do you realize what would happen if all these fucking people all of a sudden realized what the world really was as opposed to what the fuck freak out would happen? You realize the level of total fucking losing their mind, especially older people, man. There's that wineskin. That's that wineskins bursting shit right there. That absolutely is, man. Older people would fucking lose their mind, try to kill themselves and shit. I'm not kidding you.
You know what? They just made a dead man switch. That's a dead man switch with the shit that they're doing. They made it too big to fail, because too big to fail is just a bank's dead man switch. They fucking became so entrenched in the economy that they're parasitically leeching off of, that now the nation in which they've hosted themselves cannot live without them. So instead, you just fucking let them entrench more to save both of your lives. It's literally a disgusting relationship that we have with the banking system. And yeah, that's true, because if that were to happen, if people were to just tomorrow figure out everything that like we know, for instance, in the average person out there, like just in mass, they announced on the fucking news that, yeah, everything that we said was true. Yes, you're right. That is something I never considered. That would be mass chaos. It's mutual destruction. That's a pretty interesting thought. I still think, well, maybe gradual is the way to do it. Maybe that's why people are gradually awakening one at a time, but it just doesn't become mass knowledge, and it is increasing. So maybe
there's no way you could let you that would be, man. I was sitting there, I could actually picture it in my head, man. And I was like, there ain't no way I'd even want to be here.
Well, it's going in gradual like increments. Basically, it's progressing along at a regular pace, and it's faster and faster. It's exponentially faster, but it's still not public knowledge, like just out there for every person to know. But more people now know than ever, and I'm sure everybody can admit that. So maybe that's why it's set up that way. Like kind of like a soft, like just wading into the water instead of jumping in. It's less.
Yeah. You go along.
Yeah. Something like that. But all right, guys, I've got an early day tomorrow. Any closing words, Dad?
Lord loves a working man. Don't trust Whiting. See your doctor and get rid of his ass. He'll probably kill you.
That's actually very true. So, all right. Sorry I was gone for so long, guys. I'll be back next weekend. Stop complying. Like just learn why. Like the video I showed you guys, if you didn't watch and you just tuned in, go back about a half hour and watch the Instagram video I showed of a guy expertly handing a judge her ass. It was phenomenal. That's all you have to do is just go in there and use the Jew magic to kung fu them back. And yeah, that's it. So you guys have a great night. Thanks for joining me, Dad. I'm excited about talking to that pastor. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to set that up when I get off here.
Yeah, make sure everybody tunes in for that. For
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Everybody have a good night. Later.
All right, man.